Go. Hello everyone, welcome to the MNLCS. Is going to be week 7, day 2, and we're going to be starting off the day with St. Olaf versus MNSU Mankato. Now, from what we've seen, Mankato is going to be at a perfect 5-0 record from what I recall. Meanwhile, St. Cloud is going to be, or St. Olaf is going to be at a 4-2 record. So let's see if MNSU can stay at that perfect streak, or if St. Olaf will be able to break it. And for today, we will be joined by none other than Fen as your solo caster for today. Not actually a color caster like I usually am. We were having a bit of issues getting other casters on board. So for now, we are doing a solo cast for tonight. And to get this game started off, I'm imagining that there's going to be a lot of focus around target bans, especially against Gigabyte and Feels Batman, just because they have some of the biggest showing against or with MNSU. Meanwhile, for the bans against, say, Olaf, it could be something to more give away the higher tier champions, those S tier rumbles that we saw come up back in day 1. Or it could also be something like the Graves, who was very high priority back on Tuesday. I'm not really too positive on what the case is going to be. However, I still am excited to see this game. These are two very high-ranking teams. They have had great showings in the past, and I feel like it's going to be exciting to watch. We're just going to be waiting for the champion select to start up, which should be in just a few moments. Teams are getting ready. And once we get into there, we can unfold and simply watch the action occur. And it looks like everyone is ready, so we can just go ahead and get started. Oh no, people were rearranging. Okay. My mistake. I thought everyone was ready about that. But we should be going in just a moment. And for some more points on MNSU versus St. Olaf. Now, St. Olaf, as we talked about with MNSU, they had a big showing with their mid and top laner, while St. Olaf has Swagnarok and Wolfiemeister usually being some of the biggest influential pieces within that team, where Wolfiemeister is very powerful on his roaming abilities, as well as the ability to play assassin or very individual carry type mid laners. Meanwhile, Swagnarok is pretty good at the early game carries. We saw him have a good showing on Lucian, I believe, back in week 3 or week 4. I do not remember exactly. And now, every single team is set up, so we should be going on in just a second. Alright, we are now going to the champion select, and let us see what this first ban is going to be against Mankato. And it is... looks like they're still deciding. I imagine it should be something targeting either Gigabyte or Feels Batman. No, it's actually going to be an Ivern against under 50%. Now, Ivern is a pretty strong jungler right now. He has a lot of easy clear potential because he doesn't actually have to stay and fight the jungle monster. He simply sets his passive, walks away, goes straight to the next camp. And he also has very powerful utility that scales heavily into that mid to late game stages, especially with items such as Redemption, Lock of the Artillery, and Athene's Unholy Grail. And we can see that Mankato is going to be going with a Lux ban against St. Olaf. Now, the Lux ban is going to be something more targeted against Wolfiemeister, one of those solo carry type of laners who has very powerful scaling abilities. And then there's also a LeBlanc going to be banned against Mankato. LeBlanc is going to be more of that Gigabyte focused ban. LeBlanc did see a bunch of nerfs, though, in the recent patch. It was kind of confusing as to why they would target her. Maybe they still see her as a very strong champion due to her passive, and also that Zero Chain still being on a very spammable cooldown. Now we can see that Nautilus was banned against St. Olaf. That's going to be targeted towards right now to Faker, or it could also be something that Jim Raynor is now using in the support role. Not too sure. There was that recent change to Stoneborn packs, making it very powerful on tanky CC-heavy supports. Now for the final ban with St. Olaf, that's going to be a Lulu, who we have also seen have a lot of impact, and the last ban to go out overall is going to be a Hecarim, another jungler ban. So it ended up being one top laner ban, 2 mid bans, one support ban, and 2 jungle bans. As for the first pick going over towards St. Olaf, I imagine they could easily prioritize something in the jungle, and they are hovering Fiddlesticks right now, although I remember back in the chat they were simply joking around saying how Fiddlesticks was their main mid laner now for a champion that they're practicing with. I doubt it's going to be locked in just because Fiddlesticks hasn't really gotten too many big buffs that could warrant him going into a lane or even back into the jungle. The only real change that he had to him was a slight decrease on the drain duration. I'm not even sure if that's in live yet. I know there is some other changes. I just cannot put my finger on. I think it maybe was cooldown decreases. But no, it looks like it's going to be an Ahri locked in for Wolfie Meister. Ahri has been seeing a lot of players use that hybrid between a control mage and an assassin, where if she gets really hedged, you can take that assassin playstyle and simply run with it. Meanwhile, the control mage is there just because she has a lot of utility and a lot of wave clear potential. So you can have her where even if you're behind, you focus on building for that wave clear and install at the game until you can hit that assassin carry level of damage. Now, when it comes from Mankato, it looks like they're going to be hovering a Cassiopeia to try and counter this Ahri. If you do have that miasma on the ground, it's going to be able to completely keep Ahri grounded, which will prevent her from escaping with her ultimate, and it looks like it will be locked in as well as Kha'Zix for under 50%. That is going to be a very powerful jungler right now. However, Graves is still left open. We saw that Graves was quite influential back on Tuesday, even though most of the games he played in, he ended up losing. In fact, that was actually all the games he played and ended up losing. The third game that he had a potential to be in, he ended up being banned. Now, let's see if St. Olaf is going to be going with a Graves to counter that Kha'Zix, or if they're going to be trying to go for another lane and take a priority pick, such as something maybe a Lucian or an Ezreal in the bot lane. They could also go with a Karma or a Nami down in the support role, just because those are two very powerful supports right now. But no, it actually looks like it's going to be a Warwick and a Sion locked in. Now, I know that Sion is one of Right Now to Faker's signature champions. He is very powerful with Sion. And Floob, I have not seen him play Warwick yet. At least I don't think I've seen him play Warwick yet. However, Warwick is one of those incredibly fun junglers to watch because once he gets that blood scent, he goes completely ravage and just chases people down, tries to murder them and devour them. And honestly, there's nothing more fun than hearing that beautiful music that comes along with the ability. Now, for the side of Mankato, we do see that Darius is being hovered by Gigabytes. That'll most likely be going over towards Fields Batman, as well as a Nami being hovered. Now, the Darius is locked in, and so is the Nami. So that's going to be a blind pick of the Nami. You could easily counter it with something that's very engaging, very pick-oriented, such as a Blitzcrank or a Thresh, which I'm not sure if that's what they're going to do. I don't remember exactly what Jim Raynor's champion pool is for the support role. I'd imagine if you were to have a wide range of support champions, the best option here would potentially be a Thresh, because with the Thresh, you can still lantern people out of the miasma, you can flay the Kha'Zix while he's jumping into your team, and you can easily get lane pressure against the Nami by having that all-in potential. Another thing that could be very strong right now would be a Braum to simply block the projectiles coming in from Kha'Zix, Cassiopeia, and Nami, since Braum Shield can block an entire tidal wave. However, it looks like they're going to be taking their sweet time to try and pick their champions over on St. Olaf. They are currently hovering Urgot. Will it be locked in? I could actually see it doing some work if you take the Urgot into the ADC role. Or you could potentially still have it where it's just a Sion supports and then Urgot goes top lane. But it looks like it's going to be a Twitch and a Janna locked in. Okay. Been quite some time since we've seen a Janna in the league, folks. Now, for this Janna potential, I really doubt it's going to be something that's going to offer pick into the lane, but it's going to be able to counteract the poke that Nami is going to try to brain using her W and her E to give hard poke to the Twitch. Twitch most likely is going to be going something such as Fervor Battle, since after the changes recently to Fervor Battle and Warlord's Bloodlust, it is honestly a far superior mastery, unless if you're on someone with a very high single auto attack burst, because that's all the Warlord's Bloodlust now gives. But it actually looks like the final champion locked in for Mankato is going to be Caitlyn for the AD carry role. So, from what it seems, is going to be a Sion in the top lane, Warwick jungle, Ahri mid, Twitch AD carry, and Janna support for St. Olaf. Meanwhile, on the side of Mankato, it's going to be Darius in the top lane, Kha'Zix jungle, Cassiopeia mid lane, Caitlyn AD carry, and Nami support. And I need a second to breathe, folks. I am sorry. Okay. We are in the Common the Champion Select. I don't need to try and act too hype now. We have finished all the action that is to be seen here. We have 3 minutes until we actually begin into game. So let's go ahead and take a few moments to look over what each team would have to do to try and work with this composition and bring it out to its fullest extent. The biggest thing to look at the start is going to be the individual lane matchups. As mentioned before, one of the biggest ones to look at is going to be the mid lane, as to where pre-level 6, the Cassiopeia against the Ahri is a pretty even matchup based on how well each individual can conserve their mana. Ahri not nearly as mana hungry as a Cassiopeia, and there's also a lot more bursty in the fact that if you land a charm and then throw out the Orb of Deception, you're going to be doing a lot of damage. Meanwhile, with Cassiopeia, you have far more consistent sustain than Ari does, meaning that you'll be able to be healthier in lane, but that also runs the risk of running out of mana if you do not back early for something such as a Lost Chapter, or if you're not given a blue buff early on. When it comes to other lanes, I think the bot lane is going to be more heavily intertwined to how the mid and jungle roles, possibly even the top lane with teleports, will be affecting that lane, just because both Twitch and Caitlyn, they can very much go at each other. They have close to equal range. Caitlyn is obviously higher than Twitch, but Twitch with his invisibility can easily sneak up onto Caitlyn, which gives that little element of surprise. You can sneak up, get the all in, and attempt to burst down as fast as possible, and with Janna having the bonus AD on her shield, basically gives Twitch a pseudo form of his passive early on without the bonus range. Next, let's take a look over at the jungle role. So Warwick versus Kha'Zix, the biggest thing here is going to be that Warwick has a lot more mobility around the map, as well as having more active summoner spells, since Ghost is going to have a lot lower cooldown and is a lot more spammable. So that's going to mean that early on, Warwick should be able to have stronger ganks than Kha'Zix, just because they'll be more consistent. However, if Kha'Zix ever reaches and is able to counter gank a single lane at the same time that Warwick is there, more than likely Kha'Zix should be able to turn around for his team, just because he has such high burst that he can easily take someone down really fast as long as they're isolated. It's going to be the real tricky part here, which is where I feel like the best lane to try and focus on ganking or counter ganking is going to be the top lane, just because you have Darius. With his pull, he could easily pull someone straight to him, separate the two enemies, making it so that one of them is going to be isolated guaranteed, and you can then pick which one you want to focus down. Most likely it's going to be the one that Darius pulls, if that's how it goes down within the lane. And finally, let's look over towards the top lane, since we were just talking about how that would go with jungler presence. However, if they're left alone in their own little island, and no jungler presence is given, then it's obvious that Darius, he is a juggernaut. He is going to be able to easily win the matchup. If he plays aggressive, he can at least zone out right now to Faker to force him away from the minions and gain a minion lead in the long run. However, we have to remember that Sion is one of those heavy wave clear champions if you allocate his abilities into the right talents. To where if you either do an Emax or Wmax early on, your wave clear is immense, but you're draining yourself of mana incredibly fast. And with that, folks, we are done looking at all the lane matchups, and we're going to be learning into the game. We'll be able to get a little hint as to what keystones each and every single individual player are going to be taking. Now, most of them are going to be pretty easy to suspect. Maybe one or two will be unexpected, and we can take a look at that or give some explanation as to why you would go one thing over another. Let's just wait until we can actually see it to talk about it. And as of right now, nothing really seems out of the ordinary. Same thing with summoner spells. Everything was as expected. I wouldn't really expect the supports to go Ignite. I would expect the Ghost onto the Warwick. The only thing I'd say I'm honestly surprised about is the fact that we can see Sion with the Grasp of the Undying rather than a Courage of the Colossus, which would offer a lot more mid-game team fight potential with the massive shield compared to having the sustain early game. However, we did say that that would be a losing matchup, so if he ends up getting stuck in a trade, he will need the extra sustain that Grasp of the Undying will give him, so I can easily understand that. Meanwhile, we can actually see that Ransack Moose decided to go with the Thunderlord's Decree and Ignite on... Oh, wait, actually, no, Summoner Spells. I completely missed this. So Ragnarok has Barrier, and Jim Raynor has Heal. So that's a highly defensive bot lane, to where they actually opted out of taking Exhaust altogether, probably just because Exhaust isn't as AoE focused, and it is a pure single target damage nuke, well, damage reduction nuke onto the enemy. And if you're in a big 5-on-5 team fight, you're only lowering the damage of one person, when in reality, it'd be optimal to lower the damage from all sources, which is where both Heal and Barrier will come in handy. So I can really understand the mindset of this bot lane. Now in terms of the Ignite over on Ransack Moose, Not too sure what the idea is over there, just because I don't think you're going to be all in the Twitch or the Janna too much. Perhaps the Ignite is more there for Warwick to make it so that he will not be able or be getting sustained too often if they can catch him out in the early to mid game stages, since Warwick's Q and his passive offer a lot of burst sustain. So right now we can see that most of the teams have lined up along the river just to get a bit of a peek to where each other are. No one is being spotted just yet. We can actually see that both mid laners and top laners are on the top side of the river while everyone else is gathered together towards the bottom half of the river. And it seems like both junglers are going to be doing the standard starts at the lower camps, both of the buffs, and I'd imagine that Warwick could be going for a full clear right now to go and try and hit level 6 as soon as possible. He may even try and go for a quick clear to reach top lane, suspecting that under 50% will be going for the fast clear to top lane as well. That way he can try and counter gank, or at least prepare for one. Another good idea here could be to try and do a faster clear and then just use your extra mobility that you have from Blood Sense if someone starts to get low, to get some free time and extra speed to get some wards into the enemy jungle so you can spot out where under 50% is before he even goes towards an area to gank. And now we can see that all the minions and camps have come up. They are doing the buff starts, and it actually looks like Feels Batman is going to be placing a ward into the blue buff. Not actually, no, he didn't place a ward. He was making sure that Warwick wasn't starting at blue buff, which actually gives a lot of knowledge. That lets the enemy team know over on side Mankato that the Floob has not started by the blue buff. He has to start at the red buff, so it will be slightly faster clear, but also lets him know that he will be rushing towards his blue buff instead of going for a gank towards bot lane early on, and that gives under 50% the freedom to try and do a more full clear style by going straight from blue to Gromp to Wolves, hitting level 3, potentially back, get the Hunter's Machete, and then get a harder clear once he returns back into the jungle. Because right now you can have Feels Batman, you can see that he is trying to apply as much pressure into the top lane as possible, gain a little bit of zoning where he can, and trying to shove in the lane early on so that he can back off and reset right around the time that the Floob will gain over to the lane for a potential gank. Oh, we can actually see that under 50% did not back to go for the Hunter's Machete. He actually just went for the full top clear and is now going straight to his red buff. So he may actually be going for the counter gank if he's still there. We can see that the Ghost is popped into the Floob and he is going in. There is the fear, and he has charging in to Feels Batman. Will be able to take him down. He has the red buff and the blue buff, so there are the slows, there are the autos. He does not have flash, so you have to remember he took Ghost, so he will not be able to reach Feels Batman. He has to burn flash to get out alive. However, he does have his teleport up, so he should not be missing too many minions, and the wave is still in his favor, and under 50% now knows exactly where the Floob is. So using that knowledge, you can either try and wait in a brush and go for a sneaky attack, or it looks like he actually decided to take Scuttle Crab and is now going to place a ward into the Floob's jungle. He placed it right at the wolf camp, suspecting that if he wanted to go for a very fast clear and reach top lane that fast, he had to go from red to blue to Gromp in order to get that level 3 as soon as possible, just because Warwick is a single target clear early on, so the only way he could have gotten it that soon would be doing the single target camps. And now he has the perfect idea, gaining the vision directly onto the Floob as he's taking his wolves. He'll know whether the Floob is back in afterwards, and there's actually a lot of poke going on to Ragnarok right now. He does have to burn the heal from Jim Raynor, and that is going to be giving away some sustain. One thing I could have understood is if they're going for a very defensive, sustain-focused lane, they should have had it where it was a Longsword 3 potions rather than a Dorn's Blade and potion, just because the total effective health that you have from the extra potions against a poke lane such as the Caitlyn Nami is going to be far superior in comparison. But we can see that under 100% was able to deliciously use that information of Warwick's exact location to pinpoint that he will be right at the Raptor camp at that moment to try and annoy him or at least counter jungle him. And he also has a ward going over towards the Krugs so that he will know exactly where the Floob is once he tries to take those. Or he could also know that if he is not seen there anytime soon, he would not be at that camp and somewhere else on the map. And let's see whether or not anyone's going to be back in real soon. We can see that Ragnarok backs and decides to go for a second Dorn's Blade. Meanwhile, Jim Raynor is going for a little bit of early movement speed and mana regeneration, most likely to make it so that he can avoid the skill shots of I Love Varus, as well as being able to get a little extra mana regen so he can have his shield up that more often to make it so he can keep Ragnarok and his tower safer for as long as possible. From what it seems like by the playstyle of Second Rock and Jim Raynor, they're going for a very farm-focused lane. They do not care if they fall behind early on. They just simply do not want to die and give a large lead over to this Caitlyn-Nami duo, because they know that if they can get ahead, then it will spin out of control. Meanwhile, Second Rock and Jim Raynor know that they can outscale Caitlyn very easily. Twitch with 3 items, especially crit items, so that's going to be what his build is, can easily destroy anyone in the late game. Especially since the only tank on the side of Mankato is going to be Feels Batman, and even then, he is still a Juggernaut, so he's not going to be completely tanky. He's going to have resistances plus sustain. And we can see that if Batman is pulling Sion under his tower, going to be getting a long trade-off. However, the Grassly and Dyne is going to give each of them a bit of sustain back. They are around half health, and I doubt anything is really going to be coming of this. It's just White Knight of Faker trying to get as much wave clear as possible, to shove in this wave, let it reset, and then can go back to trying to freeze the wave before under 50% can come. However, we can see that both Defloob and Kha'Zix are already here. They are ready. They're going to be clashing together into this Fry Bush, actually. Whether or not Gil is going to come of it, that's pretty obvious. That under 50% is just going to jump away right after getting the short trade. He did win the trade, and now he has the freedom to try and hold this top lane, since Feels Batman had already burned his teleport before to make it so that he can walk back to lane without worrying about having too much damage taken to his tower. Just looking around the map, we can see that actually an immediately started and cancelled Unstoppable Onslaught happened from Right Now to Faker. I'm not sure, was that a misclick? Was he trying to go for a gank mid and just messed it up? Either way, that's going to be a massive cooldown in the early game, because Unstoppable Onslaught is roughly 2.5 minutes as a cooldown really early on at rank 1. So that's going to be lowering the trade potential against Feels Batman, and now we can see that some bit of a trading is going on between the bot lane carries, as well as Ransack Moose trying to get a bit of damage in there as well. He does have the Frost Feint, so we will gain a little bit extra gold from every single one of these trades, and because he has the upgraded support item as compared to Jim Raynor still having the first tier, he will be having far more gold income than Jim Raynor would, meaning that he'll be able to reach items such as the Redemption or the Lock of the Iron Solari that much sooner. And there's actually being a big trade, the bubble lands as well as the W coming through. Caitlyn has her passive ready and she is going for the poke. However, Second Rock is under tower, so it's very unlikely that a full all-in will be occurring. He is only about 220 health though, so he has to be careful. He does still have the barrier and he does still have heal from Jim Raynor right now. And actually I just realized having Jim Raynor with the heal is actually very good, because supports oftentimes go with the mastery that reduces summoner spell cooldowns, which means that the cooldown of this heal is going to be much lower, and it's basically going to be a free heal every 200 seconds compared to the normal 240. I think that's what it was. Now we can see that Defloob is actually going to be ulting straight onto Ransack Moose. Is going to be using his Q to follow straight behind and get the fear off. He does get the first blood. It's going to be going over to Swing Rock. They're still chasing onto this Caitlyn. The red buff is ticking down. Having these slow go away. Every auto attack is going to be doing a little bit more damage, and Swing Rock is trying to get into range. However, he does not. He did not want to burn his flash to try and go for that kill because it was not guaranteed, and also he is still very low, so he would not be able to safely try and go for that kill without getting bursted down in return. However, that is a 1-for-0 trade, with first blood going straight over to St. Olaf and directly onto Swagnarok of all people. We mentioned before, he just simply wants to try and outscale this Caitlyn, and by giving him that first blood, he's really going to be helping doing that. So I imagine with this first, or with this next back coming up, it's going to be some extra sustain items, or potentially a crit. However, we can see that that is happening in the top lane. There is the dunk coming in from Feels Batman getting the kill. Whether or not he's going to be escaping from this passive of Sion, he does. And Floob is there to try and answer. He could be simply going to hold the wave, and it looks like he's actually going to be returning to his jungle. He is trying to find Feels Batman before he can finish backing, and he does. However, the Blast Cone is there, and it will be saving Feels Batman. That does mean that the Floob is going to be having to simply hold the tower, eat up the creeps, and with that, he will be gaining a bit of a time to catch up to under 50% in experience and gold, but most of his topside jungle is completely gone, because the entire time the Defloob was down bot, under 50% was counter jungling over in the topside jungle. So now Defloob is going to be returning to his jungle and recognizing that there is nothing there for him to take. The only camp that's actually up that he could try and grab is going to be the Raptors, which now that he does have Tiamat, it's going to be much safer and faster to take, just because it gives Warwick, who's normally a hard single target clear, to a slightly AoE clear. And we can see that there are some pink wards starting to hover all around this dragon pit, so that we can see coming from the side of Mankato, they have 3 pink wards surrounding the pit, and we can see that they're trying to shove out Ragnarok and Jim Raynor so that they can take this dragon uncontested. It is an Infernal, so that's going to be big for them. However, a lot of damage being put onto I Love Varus right now. They're going to be using Caitlyn's Ace in the Hole to try and just burst out Ragnarok that much further. They're trying to pressure him out of this lane as much as possible so they can get some free dragon pressure. And they're going to be using the tidal wave coming down. The Flip is here. He does not have Ghost. He does have his ultimate though. He's going to be going straight onto Ransack Moose and gets the kill. We can see that teleport was coming in from Feels Batman, but he does cancel it. So it's going to be going down. It's going to be a 3v1 for I Love Varus. He does already make it back to his tower, so he should be safe. There is the cask going down. It will not be reaching, so the slow will not be proccing. They are trying to clear some of these wards all around. They have it where the 2 in the Tri-Brush and the River Brush are now already gone. It's just the one that's left in the river just above the Dragon Pit that is there, and they're going for this Infernal Dragon. 100% is on his way, but I don't think he can really try and contest. It's going to be a 3v3. However, Caitlyn is all alone right now. She's being all in. That is going to be forced out of this fight, and now it's going to be a 2v2. However, Jim Raynor is incredibly low and should be going down. There is the kill going on to the Fluke from Gigabyte. Meanwhile, you can see that Wolfie Meister came in from the backline, had his Spirit Rush up, and decided to burst down I Love Varus incredibly fast. Ransack moves to sort of return to the fight, has revived actually, and is trying to chase on Wolfie Meister now that the Spirit Rush is gone, and is going to not successfully reach it just because the extra movement speed from the Orb of Deception is going to be keeping Wolfie Meister at a safe distance. And now the Deflube is down, this should be a free Infernal Dragon for the side of Mankato. So by pinstring, having Caitlyn play a bit of a bait to delay the dragon as long as possible and position them all in a clump space, they're able to get Gigabyte to get the flash in with the miasma to deny any potential flash outs, as well as any other escape attempts that they would have, and be able to secure a kill on either Deflube or Ragnarok. The kill ended up going onto Deflube, which was the optimal choice. He was a jungler, and you want to make sure you always take away the jungler whenever you're going for a jungle objective such as Dragon or Baron, because with that smites, that is the only thing that can truly contest, unless if you have someone in your team such as either a Kalista, a Jhin, a Nunu, or a Cho'Gath, who also have an incredibly high burst damage against monsters. However, as you can see, none of those champions are in this game, so smite is the only thing that matters. And now we can see that Deflube is going to be spotted over by his red buff, so that Feels Batman knows he is completely safe going for this fight. He will be going for a dive. He gets the Q, he gets the ult. Will the poison be enough to take down? I think Right Now Faker should have a shield up in time. It does go off, and he will be staying alive. So that is an ultimate down for Feels Batman, and Right Now Faker will be gained away barely alive. However, he does not have his teleport up, so this will be a lot of damage going down onto the top turret. Just going to go double check real quick and see how low it is. It's actually only about 1/4 health down, so it's unlikely for it to truly go all the way down, because Right Now Faker does also have Unstoppable Onslaught. And here's the title going on to Ragnarok as well as Jim Raynor. And we can see that attention turns straight over onto Jim Raynor the moment that Ragnarok passed away. So the flash is burned. The heal was also burned, but however, under 100% still gets the kill onto Jim Raynor. Whew! Okay. I am tired, but we still have a game that's going. We're only 14 minutes in, and just going to take some of this lull time to look around at the items. The first one tower did go over to the side of Mankato, with most of the gold being focused on to under 100% and I Love Varus. Ransack moves was still there for some of the gold. However, just looking at the gold differentials, we can see that the biggest separation right now is in this jungle and also in the mid lane. Right at the mid lane, it's ahead by 1,000 gold. And that is mostly due to the CS differential being 40 CS ahead on Gigabyte, who, as we mentioned before, did want to rush for that lost chapter. So did Wolfie Meister. However, the higher amount of farm that was grabbed by Gigabyte early on allowed him to secure the lost chapter that much sooner, as well as having the Tear of the Goddess, as well as the blue buffs given over to him. However, Deflube is there with the ultimate, and there's the Spirit Rush coming in from Wolfie Meister to get the kill onto Gigabyte. So as we just mentioned, he may be ahead, but you are a immobile carry. You have to be careful of where you go, especially when they have a Warwick, and here is both Deflube and Right Now Faker going hard onto Feels Batman. Wolfie Meister is also off on the silence, however, he is far off and does not want to burn his flash. Meanwhile, Feels Batman ended up burning his in order to make it out back alive. And here we can see that Ransack Moose is actually being caught up by Jim Raynor and Ragnarok. He does have the slow, however, that is not enough damage to take him out. The expunge does go through, but he is still at 50% health and is near enough to I Love Varus with a heal to make sure he can stay alive. Now we can see that Wolfie Meister, despite having some issues farming before, now does finally have the blue buff back onto him. So the blue buff with the Lost Chapter, he will be staying very healthy on mana. Can easily try and shove into this Gigabyte, pressure the mid lane tower, and then as soon as Spirit Rush comes back up, he could easily shove in the wave and then rotate over with the shove or with the mid lane pressure to try and secure a kill elsewhere on the map. The best spot to possibly go for a kill would be onto Svegenrock, following with the Flube to go with a chain of the Infinite Duress with the Spirit Rush into a Charm and securing a kill onto optimally either under 50% or I Love Varus, because those are the two main carries right now of Mankato. Gigabyte is still in these scaling phases until he finishes his tier item. We can see that Feels Batman is trying to go for another trade, and right now Faker ends up flashing out of the Darius Q to make sure that he doesn't get hit by the large end of the blade. Right there, if he got hit, there could have potentially been a Noxian Guillotine follow-up. We can see that under 50% is actually catching up to Flube. He is trying to go for a high burst, but the Howl does get out from Deflube to make the fear go off, and he will be gained away safely. He is pretty low. He does have the Primal Surge or Blood Hunt, Blood Sense. I'm going to double check real quick. Blood Hunt. He does have the Blood Hunt go off to make it so he can get a little bit faster movement speed in case he wants to look for a pick. He does have his Infinite Duress up, which would give a lot of health back to him. Probably better than back up to 50%, but we can see that right now under 50% decides to go back into the river, gain some vision control, take away the ward in that brush, as well as grab Scuttle Crab to make sure that Deflube won't be hanging up towards Feels Batman anytime soon. And actually, Deflube is being caught out by Gigabyte. He does have Infinite Duress. He does use it. However, both I Love Varus and Ransec Moose are there to help him out. He doesn't even need the help. We can see that the Ransec Moose was caught up by the Spirit Rush and Charm, and now a Spirit Rush is being used to finish off Gigabyte. And that's going to be a 2-for-1 trade towards the side of St. Olaf. So it looks like St. Olaf may have the potential to bring down Mankato. They're still fighting very powerfully against this team. What I want to see right now is going to be St. Olaf trying to utilize whatever kills they can get to force an objective, or at least give some free time to get more scaling onto Svegenrock. Because right now they're going for this Assassin Ari style. They're obviously using the Spirit Rush to make picks rather than to add rotation and pressure. And they need to simply try and transfer the power from Wolfie Meister over onto Svegenrock as soon as possible. Because when you get the Ruined Hurricane and the Infinity Edge onto Twitch, with his ultimate and with the Janna Shield, is going to be doing insane amounts of damage in the team fights, with the only threat really going to be potentially a Cassiopeia Gaze or Darius. Now, in terms of what Mankato needs to do, they are already in the lead. It's only by about 4,000 gold, but that is enough, especially because they also have an Infernal Dragon. There's a second one up right now. We can see that they have decent ward coverage in the mid side of the river. However, that is not enough, because we can see that's easily being cleared. They do have vision denial currently, and they actually are trying to catch up to Flube. They're forcing him away. The bubble doesn't land, however, no one is nearby to truly follow up, and they're going to be getting this dragon secured for themselves. There's going to be two Infernals going over to Mankato, adding a lot of scaling to Gigabyte and I Love Varus, as well as under 50%. Who we can see is starting to build towards that Youmuu's Ghostblade, going to be giving that lethality as well as the bonus mobility around the map, making it so we can rotate just as fast as the Flube. And now we can see that they're trying to pressure this red buff. However, the members of St. Olaf are also here. Will the Flube use his Infinite Duress Card and escape? He does! So he had two options there. He could have tried to use the Infinite Duress to latch onto someone and heal, but there were enough members of Mankato there, as well as Emerald to give Grievous Runes, to basically guarantee that the sustain would not have been enough. However, it could have made a potential 1-for-1 trade with Svegenrock being there, and Wolfie Meister was over towards the mid lane, so maybe if the sustain lasted not enough, it could have gone for a full trade. However, trying to break out a team fight against the team that's ahead of you is not the best idea. Usually when you're behind, you're actually... Oh, never mind, we can actually see the engage with the Unstoppable Onslaught going straight onto Gigabyte. The kill does go down, but however, right now Figure trades his life for it. We have under 50% trying to dive in. He does get incredibly low. Same thing with Feels Batman. We can see that both Jim Raynor and Right Now Figure have gone down, as well as under 50% and Gigabyte. The only people alive right now are I Love Varus, Ransec Moose, and Feels Batman is being chased from behind. That is going to be a 4-for-3 trade. They're still trying to make this a complete ace, though, chasing down Ransec Moose. Ragnarok is there with his invisibility. He will be proccing it, and he should be getting the Expunge off to finish off the kill. No, actually, the kill's going to be going over to Wolfie Meister with the charm. Scumbag Wolfie is trying to secure the kills for himself. However, we can see that Wolfie Meister is the one doing most of the work in these team fights, so it's very understandable that he still wants the kills for himself. He's doing the work, he deserves it. Now, after that fight, the big thing that ended up being the issue was that Gigabyte was far too forward without anyone to potentially protect him, and there was a very fast, very well executed ultimate from Right Now to Faker to try and lock down Gigabyte, who was quickly bursted down by both Wolfie Meister and Spigen Rock to follow up. And even though Deflub was incredibly low, he still had a potential to stand back up using his Q as well as his passive, which allowed him to go for very quick short trades, specifically against under 50%. And my throat really hurts. I am trying to keep this up. You can see that there is some ward coverage trying to be swapped around towards the Dragon Pit. However, Dragon just went down recently, so going for that ward coverage is really just a more keep rotations at bay. Because if you cannot see where a team is rotating, you don't really want to risk trying to follow up because they easily pull something like a Fnatic rush tactic, or something similar to where they have all 5 members hiding in one brush or somewhere in the jungle to look for a quick pick, which, since they have a Cassiopeia, the Petrifying Gaze, or a Tidal Wave from Nami, would be incredibly devastating in a very short corridor, such as one of the jungle paths. We can see, actually, though, that they are trying to rotate towards the bot lane, having Feels Batman stay in the top side to add pressure and force Right Now Faker away from his team, but it looks like the minion waves are in Right Now Faker's favor, and he is simply going to be walking over, not using his teleport. It's going to be forcing Feels Batman to use the teleport instead, and now Deflub is putting on the Blood Hunt to try and scare away Gigabytes and Ransack moves. It is going to work, however, the wards are still in favor of Mankato. It looks like they're going to be trying pressuring both top and bot lane, while having Gigabyte rotate over towards the mid lane, and everyone else is simply sitting in between the jungle spots between mid and bot to try and get ready for that team fight soon to come. They have it where they want to stay towards that part of the map because the person with teleport on their team is towards the top half of the map, so it's much easier for him to come down to your team rather than for your team to go to him. And that is the main mentality, but we can see that under 50% is still trying to counter jungle, add as much pressure as he can, taking away the farm from Deflub to make so he can just get ahead, go for that next item, most likely going to be something such as a Duskblade Draxthar. And speaking of items, let's just go ahead and look over some of the items, see if there's anything that's interesting to point out. It looks like we actually have a QSS built onto Gigabyte to stop the Warwick ultimate, so you can see that he is recognizing the threat of the Infinite Duress. It's going to be respected from this point forward. However, he is still the only member of Mankato with it. But by seeing the QSS there, Deflub will have to recognize that going for Gigabyte with his Infinite Duress is going to be a useless tactic, and he'll have to focus on someone like under 50% or I Love Varus from now on, because as we can see, the QSS does come in and immediately cleanses the Infinite Duress to keep him alive. There's the bubble onto the Spigen Rocks, there's the Tidal Wave, and the Ace in the hole. They're going to be trying to take him down. There's the Ignite, however, the Eye of the Storm is going to be keeping Spigen Rock alive, negating the damage from Ignite. But he took enough damage that he's going to be forced off of this turret. Bot tower tier 2 is going to be going down, and now they have a lot of map pressure going around. They're simply doing a 1-2-2 split push, but we can see that the teams are starting to group up towards the mid lane. Only the top laners are still staying separate. They have both teleports up, so they can easily join their team should a fight be close to breaking out. However, the biggest thing to remember is that you want Right Now Faker there. He has an incredible amount of crowd control and utility that you need for when a fight first breaks out. You don't have anyone else on your team that really has it to offer, because Spigen Rock or Deflub just uses Infinite Duress onto Gigabytes and end up wasting it. Meanwhile, the next closest thing is going to be Charm on Wolfie Meister, who is only a single target ability. And it looks like Mankato is going to be opting into resetting to try and prepare for this Ocean Dragon, which an Ocean Dragon will greatly help Gigabyte specifically, just because Gigabyte, even though he has the Archangel Staff, he is still going to be very hungry for mana. He's going to be spamming his E, the Twin Fangs, as much as possible to get enough sustained damage throughout the fights to make an impact. In order to do that, you need to have the mana regen. And it looks like they're actually just going to have Kha'Zix, or under 50%, solo the Ocean Dragon right underneath St. Olaf's nose. Either they don't care about the Ocean Dragon, or they forgot that it's a potential thing to be taken. My guess is they didn't really see the value in it just because they don't have any members that are too hungry for either mana or health regen at the moment. The best person I could see wanting the health regen would possibly be Deflute, because he's really playing a in and out playstyle with these fights where he jumps in with the Infinite Duress, gets a bit of sustain in the moment he gets low. He uses the Primal Howl to keep himself alive and simply back out of the fights, and then lets himself sustain to get back in. Whew! Alright. And now we can see that the teams are trying to set up for Baron. The Scuttlecrab did go over to St. Olaf, so they will be able to get consistent vision for the next roughly 20 seconds into that river based on the timer, and there are wards as well as Caitlyn's traps covering the river at the entrance points to Baron. It looks like Deflute was able to sneak by one of them and is going to be trying to clear some of the pink wards. He does also see the blue trinket, but not the regular control ward. There is the Infinite Duress to make it just so he can escape, but you have to remember Infinite Duress is the main ability of Warwick even after the rework. So with that, he is giving up a huge ability for the next team fights or potential pick, unless if they can stall out a fight long enough to allow the Infinite Duress to come back up. And as for... oh, wait, we can hear that the Unstoppable Onslaught is coming from right now to Faker. It's going to be trying to catch out I Love Varus, but all it's going to be doing is just forcing him towards the river where Deflute is. And you have to remember, though, Deflute just uses Infinite Duress to escape, so he has nothing else except for the Primal Howl, as well as Eye of the Storm, trying to keep himself alive while simply walking away. All the scout traps are reset back to the entrance points towards Baron. Meanwhile, Gigabyte is just shoving in the mid lane the entire time, getting a lot of damage onto the mid tower. We see that Feels Batman is also down in the bot lane, just dealing immense amounts of damage towards that bot tower. Well, going to be once he reaches it. He hasn't dealt any damage yet. And the issue with this, though, is that trying to respond to the threats of Gigabyte and Feels Batman pressuring these towers leaves yourself completely open to have Baron snuck, because you have no wards in the actual pit itself, aside from the one that's close to it. But that ward does not cover everything. You can easily walk around and see things nearby it, but not directly in the pit with the ward that you have set there. And it looks like they're trying to do a Fnatic style bait. They have 3 members inside the inside that brush, trying to wait patiently for someone to come up. However, with these scout traps over there, it's unlikely they would even try such a thing. And it looks like they're going to be looking to potentially start Baron to actually bait it. And because of already throwing out the Charm and the Orb Reception, not actually killing under 50%, they are alerted that there is a ward there, because a person wouldn't really want to randomly guess if there is a champion there or not, especially when Baron is at hand, because you'd rather save it for going inside the pit with such an ability like Charm. So that definitely allows Mankato to get a little hint that there is someone near there. Now we can see that the Infinite Duress is back up onto Deflute. He has it. He will not be wanting to try and hit Gigabyte with it. That is the lowest priority target right now, because the QSS is up. And we can see that the Decimate does land straight onto Feels Batman. The Tidal Wave does come out, does not hit anyone at all. The Spirit Rush is used to go hard onto both Gigabytes and Ransack's Moose, taking them down. Meanwhile, I Love Varus was taken down by Deflute and Spagnarok. And that is going to be a 4-for-0 trade on the side of St. or 4-for-1. I did not see that right now. Faker died. 4-for-1 trade on the side of St. Olaf. And they have immense pressure on this Baron right now. They could easily try and go for it. They have Wolfie Meister trying to scout out where under 50% is to make sure you cannot jump in. He is there to try and steal it. It looks like he'll be jumping in real soon. Will be going from the side or all the way around. Actually, no, it looks like he's going to be giving it up. Alright, he does not want to try and contest that Baron. He knows that it would be too risky, and if he loses it, then it wouldn't really gain anything for him, because he would simply die. If he does get it, he would still die, which means that it would simply be taking the Baron away from St. Olaf, which is still a great thing to be possible, but the risk is not necessarily worth the reward at this point in the game. The game has not yet been decided. You have to remember that. The score is 15-7, but the gold lead says something completely different, because St. Olaf still has yet to take a tower, and it's 30 minutes into the game. Part of this is because they have not been focusing on grouping for objectives like you would normally want to see in teams like this. They've been going for a lot more kills and picks with their composition, which in a way, that's what the composition is built for, but you always have to go for an objective, because that's what wins the game in the long run. Meanwhile, we can see that people such as I Love Varus and Gigabyte have been using their ability to zone people away perfectly to make sure that they can try and keep their towers alive. And overall, we know that right now Faker is not going to be able to really push against Fields Batman. He's going to lose in any type of 1v1 trade that he goes for. He would need to Floob or Swagenrock or Wolfmeister there to help him out. Justin Rainer wouldn't add enough pressure to turn this fight round in his favor, and Gigabyte actually gets chunked out really hard. They do have Ransack Moose that are starting to heal him back off, so that will be a bit of sustained add. It looks like the first tower for St. Olaf is finally going to be going down over in the top lane. And the Floob is pushing for more just because they can still see every single member of Mankato, and they know for a fact that no one is near the top lane as of yet. They do not know that Fields Batman has backed. However, you have to remember the Floob is a very fast champion, so he will be able to simply walk away. Oh, actually, no, the pull lands, and he will be trying to slow him down. Gets off the Decimate. Will he be able to follow up? He does have Black Cleaver, so he's getting that bonus movement speed, as well as having Deadman's Play, giving a little bit of extra movement speed as well. He's chasing. There is the ace in the hole. There is the bubble. However, the Floob uses his Infinite Duress to make sure he can get out alive. He is now half health. He does not have anything to really sustain against unless he goes directly to that blue buff or one of the other jungle camps. But Dragon is live, so he tries to take the time to sustain himself back up, and he will simply be giving up this Infernal Dragon for free, which you do not want Mankato to get a third Infernal Dragon. That would be awful to try and deal with. And the big thing for Mankato right now, actually, is not necessarily just going for this Dragon, but trying to force a broken up team fight, because in all honesty, with Sion and Twitch, the side of St. Olaf has a much better team fight potential than Mankato, and it looks like a team fight's actually going to be breaking out. The tidal wave does go through. The Dragon goes over to Founder for it to be sent. He gets a smite, and immediately Wolfmeister second out by Gigabyte. We can see that Swagenrock is going to be the next one to go down. Actually, no, he lives and takes out Fields Batman and Ransack's moves, but there's the Petrifying Case trying to slow down the rest of St. Olaf. They're giving the chase, but their damage dealer, Swagenrock, is just simply too low to do anything. This is part of the issue with having Warwick as your jungler, just because you do not have that much damage as a Warwick. You have a lot of annoyances and a lot of crowd control and utility, but your direct damage in team fights is very minuscule. To the point where most people can honestly ignore Warwick and focus on the other threats, which is end up being what Mankato did to make sure that they could focus down Wolfmeister, they could focus down Swagenrock, and Swagenrock, while he didn't go down, got low enough that he could no longer try to threaten the team, because if he got anywhere close to a threat zone, he would immediately be going down. And right there you can see that the Infinite Duress is using the gap closer and tries to beat down Gigabyte, but he has the QSS, he does get the management down, slowing them way down, and he is going to be taking the kill for himself. Meanwhile, the flash in with Decimate onto Swagenrock is going to be finishing him off. He does not have his ultimate, or no, actually Fields Batman does have his ultimate. Caitlyn is giving chase to right now to Faker, trying to catch him out. Will we be seeing the tidal wave busted out? Yes, we will. There is the slow, there is the bubble. It is not landing, and eventually I Love Varus will be gaining this kill. I do not think right now Faker is going to be able to escape in time. And no, he will not. So the only people left on the side of St. Olaf is going to be Wolfmeister and Jim Raynor, who will not be offering much wave clear himself. Wolfmeister does have a decent amount of wave clear, but he has to be careful because all members of Mankato are still up, and they could easily try and flank around, especially with under 50% there. And it looks like they're going to be giving away this tier 2 tower for free, and will be looking to protect their inhibitors instead. Since the Floob and Swagenrock are now back up, it's only going to be one tower gone for that whole fight, but that was still 3 kills for nothing going over towards Mankato, putting them ahead now 4,000 gold. Close to 5,000 now. We can see that they're also taking this time that they got the pressure to take the blue buff and other camps within the jungle. Going to be stealing as much gold as possible and having the wave get set up to be shoving towards the tower for the top lane, which in all honesty did not push fast enough. It was a little too slow of a push setup to where Swagenrock is able to get there and collect all that farm, making it so that the gold that he missed while he was dead is now null and void, since he gets to catch it all back up. Just look at that gold pouring into Swagenrock. He has already got 1,000 gold ever since he revived, which he's not even that far off the total gold that I Love Varus has. He is one level ahead and only about 800 gold behind, 400 gold behind actually. So the 280 carries are incredibly close. The 2 mid laners are still pretty close. It's only a 400 gold difference between the mid laners. The biggest thing causing a gold difference between any 2 members of a team right now is going to be the top lane, with roughly 3,000 of a gold difference between right now to Faker and Fields Batman, the difference being in favor of Fields Batman. We can see that he has finished his Guardian Angel now, so he will be a much bigger threat in these team fights because when you take down Fuse Batman, he will not actually be going down for good. You have to kill him a second time, and the Guardian Angel is also finished on under 50%. So that's going to be 2 members of Mankato that you have to kill twice, while on the side of St. Olaf, none of them have Guardian Angel, and they have a lot more utility or some defense optimization starting to get built up. You can see that right now Faker win for the Knight's Vow is actually going to be put onto Swagenrock, which is a little interesting because you have a very short distance, you have to stay close to the person you're connected with the Knight's Vow. And right now Faker is mostly on an engage style champion, so unless he's going to be playing Peel now instead of engage, he won't be that close to Swagenrock to try and really get the Knight's Vow to stay active. Meanwhile, if we take a look at the side lanes, we can actually see that the bottom side lane is going to be building up and pushing in towards St. Olaf. Meanwhile, the top side lane is going to be building up and pushing ever so slowly towards Mankato, which means that whoever goes to collect that top wave is going to be getting a juicy amount of gold. However, that wave is also going to be messy enough that it's going to take time, unless if it's someone such as Gigabyte taking it, using the AoE poison, or Veil's Batman using his decimates to clear it real fast, as we see him doing now. And the big fight right now for both teams is trying to get control of this Baron. It is back up in there, trying to catch out to Flube right now. He is 2 against 4, now 3 against 4, and now everyone is joining. There is the Infinite Duress, there is the Unstoppable Onslaught going on to Ransack Moose, and I love Varus. There is the kill, the Petrifying Gaze is used to stop the rest of St. Olaf and slow them down in their tracks. And because of that Petrifying Gaze, they're able to completely disengage from that fight. That made it only a 2-for-0 trade as compared to what could have been a 3 or 4-for-0 had the fight gone on and continued, because Wolfmeister still had the Spirit Rush. They had a lot of bonus moves from the Talisman Ascension that Jim Raynor had procced. And now we get to see that they are taking tower after tower and they are trying to go immediately to the Baron next. With I Love Varus down, they'll be having a lot less damage coming up for the team fight to come. If they want to try and contest, it is going to be a 3v5 fight if it is contested. Just saying, look, it's looking like Under 50% is going to be trying to flank from behind, while Gigabyte and Fuse Batman try and give pressure directly from the sides. They actually are going to be pulling off of the Baron, not trying to finish it off. They only had it about 50% once the side of Mankato arrived, so that was a pretty smart idea. They still have the Guardian's Angel on both Fuse Batman and Under 50%. So it's essentially still 5 members with a slight delay between 2 of them reappearing. And now we can see that they're going to be going for the Elder Dragon. There's going to be an Elder Dragon taken with 4 dragons already under Mankato's belt, meaning that this will be doing roughly 60 damage. Actually, no. 75, because it's 15 per stack plus 1 stack for all the dragons. So 5 times 15, 75 damage per tick. That is going to be an insane amount of damage coming from this Elder Dragon, as well as you have to remember, the Infernal Dragon buffs are now doubled, which means that 24% bonus AD and AP is now 48% bonus. And with Gigabyte having the Seraph's Embrace, as well as I Love Varus having a lot of AD stacked on top, that's going to be an immense amount of damage. As you can see that Fuse Batman just completely melted Swagenrock, and he's doing that to the rest of the team as well. There is Igniting Guillotine once, twice, thrice, getting the triple con to Wolfmeister, Swagenrock, and Jim Raynor. However, or no, actually one of the kills ended up going on right now to Faker, and Wolfmeister actually went down to I Love Varus, and this will now be an ace, and they could easily try and push for the end. They have a full minion wave right here. They could have Fuse Batman try and tank the tower while keeping the minions alive, and it looks like that's what they're going to be doing. The tower will be mostly incredibly quick. They still have the Elder Dragon, going to be burning the objectives, going to be having that 48% bonus ability power and attack damage to take down the towers that much faster. And this will be game 1. Going over to Mankato, we still see them with a perfect record of now 6-0, keeping them at the top of the bracket. GG's all around, and congratulations to Mankato. Whew. All right. And with that game, we can see that one of the most impactful members from Game 1 was definitely going to be Fuse Batman, constantly keeping pressure on right now to Faker. However, that match was very back and forth, and there were a lot of people having a major amount of impact. The 2 most impactful people within the entire game, I would argue, are Wolfmeister having the Spirit Rush on point every single time to make it so he can position himself for a clear charm, into a full assassination on whoever his target was. Usually it would be someone like Ransack Moose or Gigabyte. But towards the later parts of the game, especially once the Elder Dragon was picked up for Mankato, then we saw that it was very difficult for him to try and assassinate people since he was getting melted just as fast. On the other side, we did mention that Fields Batman was one of the top players for Mankato. He was constantly pressuring every single side lane. He had an immense amount of farm and an immense amount of damage. Just going to take a look at the damage charts real quick, and we can actually see that he had the most damage on his team with 26,000, also the highest in the game. The next highest closest to him is going to be actually on I Love Varus at 23,700. It's only 200 less. But still, the fact that you have that much damage on a Juggernaut compared to an AD carry is incredibly impressive. Meanwhile, for other more behind-the-scenes players that had a big amount of impact, it's obviously going to be under 50%, constantly having the wards necessary, even going the Tracker's Knife rather than a Skirmisher's Saber to get rid of some of that dueling potential and add more of a macro potential to his team, and enabling them to have a lot more ward control within the jungle, within the Dragon area, within the Baron pit, and secured nearly every single Dragon and Baron. They did secure every single Dragon, but I believe one Baron went over towards the side of Saint Olaf. I believe it was the first one. However, that is game one. We have it where our victor is MSU Mavericks. Now going to be having a record of 6-0 at the top of our bracket. So again, congratulations to Mavericks. You guys have played excellently. We will love to see you again later tonight as you will be playing in game number 3, I believe. Yep, that's going to be game number 3. I'll be playing again against St. Cloud, so we will see you later tonight. Meanwhile, we'll be taking a short break for about 6 minutes while we head into Winona versus Gustavus. everyone, we are back with game number 2, going to be Winona versus Gustavus. We'll be starting up in just a few moments in the Champion Select. Now, once we get started, we'll be able to see which type of ban and pick style these teams are going to opt into. I imagine it's going to be something similar that we saw to last game, where it's going to be very damage-heavy focus in the mid and jungle roles compared to more utility-oriented, and maybe something a little bit tankier over in the top lane, such as the Juggernauts or the flat-out tanks like the Scion and Darius as we saw before. I also wouldn't be surprised if we saw Rumble returning into the scene, as he had a great showing last time, or if we saw Graves come back, because oddly enough, I was actually surprised to see that Graves back on Tuesday had 100% pick back. Okay, never mind, he's banned. Well, I guess that's not happening. But at least he still showed up so that we know he is still getting the attention he deserves. Meanwhile, we see a Syndra ban coming in from the side of Gustavus. Now, Orianna's going to be banned from Winona, and I think it's a targeted ban against Shift Big Dogs. I believe he played Orianna last time, and he had a decent showing on it. I don't remember if it was a win or a loss. I believe it was a loss. But either way, it was a good enough showing to warrant the ban. And we can see that a Ryze is going to be banned next. Now, he was nerfed pretty heavily recently, especially on his EQ combo, so that he doesn't have a lot of burst or wave clear anymore. But it is still potential to really show up on Ryze. He's incredibly powerful, and if anything, he's going to be underrated after the nerfs. So I really respect the ban. And finally, we can see Yasuo getting banned, mostly again a target towards Chef Baydog, or even potentially against Chupinjay. And for the final ban coming from Gustavus, we can see that that's going to be Echo, a targeted ban against Funky B. Alright, so let's see the way that Winona wants to try and pick out here. They could easily go for something such as a Kha'Zix, or even something a little bit more simpler. Oh, actually, no, it's going to be a Hecarim picked up. So actually, this will be the first time in a while that we've seen a Hecarim come into the MNLCS. I'm going to be quite excited because Hecarim is one of my favorite junglers to watch as well as play. Meanwhile, we can see that the priority for Gustavus is going to be a Caitlyn. Not sure if this will be locked in. If it's going to be locked in, then I'd suggest something like a Nami to immediately follow up, just because Caitlyn Nami is an incredibly powerful duo, or even something such as a Caitlyn Janna. But it looks like they're going to be doing a bit of a mind game right here. I'm not sure who they're going to be locking in. We do see that Nami and Kalista are locked in. Okay. So the Soul Pact may not be put onto the Nami. It could potentially be put onto the jungler, whoever they decide to make the jungler. Just because having a Nami with the ultimate from Kalista, not the greatest option, because you don't want to be throwing Nami right into the front line of the enemies. It could be for a pure peel purpose or somewhat protection purpose for Nami. But it looks like Winona is going to be hovering Aurelion Sol and a Teemo. Let us see if they're going to be locking this in. Not too sure if it's going to be locked in, since a Teemo with an Aurelion Sol and a Hecarim wouldn't be the greatest synergy, and no, that is not what they want to go with. Instead, they lock in the Vayne for Fear Fracture, and they're still hovering the Aurelion Sol. I actually could see that working out very well, just because Aurelion Sol would be able to roam very powerfully and keep the Kalista at bay if he focuses his roams towards the bot lane. But it looks like it's going to be a Thresh locked in, which is just fine, because Thresh, as mentioned at the last Champion Select, is incredibly powerful against Nami. I actually wish I would have seen it last time instead of Janna. But now that we do see the Thresh going out as a Vayne Thresh versus a Kalista Nami, the biggest thing for that bot lane is going to be having Thresh focus Nami rather than Kalista, because Kalista dodges skill shots incredibly easy as long as you know how to play with her passive properly. And if you can get a single hook or flay onto the Nami, it's basically guaranteed dead, especially because the follow-up from a Vayne is going to be incredibly powerful. Meanwhile, we can see that Chef Baydog is going to be locking in Ahri for himself. And the next one to go in is going to be either a top laner or a jungler for Gustavus. I imagine it could be a jungler, just because they already see Hecarim has been locked in and they want to keep the top lane matchup as hidden as possible. So a jungler would be best to pick right now. I'm not too sure what they're going to go for. It could be something such as an Elise, because Elise versus Hecarim is a pretty even matchup. Or it could be even a Rengar. All right, so that's going to be a Rengar, very snowbally style jungler to where you want to be able to kill everyone at least once to get that bonus percent AD stacking up early on, and that way you can just scale smoothly into the late game. And I mean, we already saw the Simo hover, that ended up being a bluff, and now we're seeing the Aatrox hover. That is most likely also a buff, but the last field to be locked in for Winona is going to be a mid and top laner, which it looks like they are hovering a lot of champions. I'm not going to try and say anything right now because they're swapping enough that nothing seems definitive. They seem to be just kind of like messing with the fans. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll go Taric top, Zilean mid, or the other way around. You never know. We still have 20 seconds, and it looks like they will be doing a potential Victor in the mid lane and a Gangplank top. Okay. So the Gangplank in the top lane is going to be adding a lot of AoE damage as well as global pressure with that ultimates coming in. Meanwhile, Victor with his Chaos Storm and Death Ray is going to be putting a lot of wave clear as well as burst potential into the team fights. As we're really going to be playing up against this top lane Gangplank is going to be Darius. Now, Darius is excellent against Gangplank because you can simply zone him and try to all in him anytime he gets too close to his minions. If he has to farm, it's going to be through his barrels or his parlay, which means he's going to be mana starved really early on. And now we're just coming down with the loadout, looking through the champions to see what's going to be taken. Any last minute swaps, perhaps we'll see Victor go top lane and a Gangplank go mid lane, you never know. But it looks like everything is set in stone. We do have pretty average looking summoner spells from what I would expect. One of them I'm going to be talking about the moment the loadout finishes, just because none of you viewers can see it right now. And we only have 15 seconds, so I guess the main pick I am surprised with is going to be this Kalista, because we have yet to see Kalista appear in the MNLCS at all. It is a very coordinated, heavy type of AD carry who has an immense amount of power in terms of ease of dodging skill shots. And with that ease also comes a bit of power taken away from the kit by Riot to make it so that she is less sustained damage due to her more survivability against skill shot oriented champions. And we can see now that the summoner spell I was going to be pointing out is that Funky Bee took Cleanse and Flash. That is mostly going to be focused around trying to cleanse any bubble from Nami or a charm from Ahri just because they have so little utility. It could also be a Bola from Rengar, but with the little utility given on the side of Gustavus, the cleanse is going to work a long way because if one thing lands and then you get the cleanse off, that's basically saying you already got all their CC off of you. And we just have about 2 minutes left until we get into this game. We have Winona's team being Gangplank top, Hecarim jungle, Victor mid, Vayne AD carry, and Thresh support. And then on the side of Gustavus, we have Darius in the top lane, Rengar in the jungle, Ahri in the mid lane, Kalista as AD carry, and Nami as support. So far within the 2 games today, we are seeing Nami, Ahri, and Darius coming up both games. Now, they seem to be pretty powerful picks, seeing as they won their respective games. I apologize, I'm running out of breath. And for the viewers that are from the Duluth or Twin City area that know me personally, you guys will know that I am a Thresh main, and I can go on for days talking about the way that Thresh will want to be playing against a Kalista and Nami bot lane, but I already gave out the biggest piece of advice or piece of knowledge to look for is going to be, as a Thresh, you don't want to go for the Kalista because she's going to be dodging your hook most of the time anyways due to her martial poise. So the next best option is going to be going straight to the Nami and focusing her down, because if you get rid of the Nami, then you can focus on the Kalista with auto attacks, and she will no longer have to sustain to back her up. Alright, and we have 45 seconds down, so we begin into the game. And for any last looks, the only thing that I'd really want to say about matchups that we didn't really get to touch is going to be the Ahri versus Victor, which is a pretty even matchup. The closest thing is going to be that Ahri, once she hits level 6, can easily use the Spirit Rush to try and all in the Victor, but if Victor can get his little field down in a perfect position to stop the Ahri mid all in, then he would be able to easily counter it using the Chaos Storm and Death Ray to follow up, as well as his Q. Oh. All right, and we'll be learning into the game in just a moment, where we'll be talking about the Keystone Masteries that we'll be seeing the players taking, as well as any other last-minute notes. All right, and one thing we can see from the summoner spells is going to be, well, not summoner spells, from the Keystones is going to be actually... Actually, nothing looks really out of the ordinary for the Keystones. Okay. Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary for the Keystones. The game has already started up, and it looks like the teams are going to be going straight towards the river to try and match up a potential invade coming in from the side of Winona. Will Gustavus be able to match it up completely? It looks like Chief Big Dog and Chip and J are going to be going towards the respective lanes, not aware of the potential invade happening. The hook is going to go wide, missing 0 and 5. Now again, it looks like both teams are going to be doing a very standard start with the jungle routes, with the lower side buffs being taken first. Now, Hecarim is not very good at taking Raptors on early, just because he is not too sustain heavy. He has low early armor, so he would most likely die to the Raptors early on if he goes for this. So my guess is instead of a full clear, we may be seeing Peter go for a fast clear, going red to wolves to blue. And then looking for a gank potentially in the mid or top lane. Or even a potential invade, because I could see Hecarim versus a Rengar, if you have the ghost up, could be in Hecarim's favor, just because he has more hard crown control early on. Other than that, I expect most lanes are going to be a farm fest, with the top lane being the only thing having a bit of action early on. We can already see that the Decimates as well as 2 auto attacks are going to be going out onto Oakenball, and that is going to be causing about a half health chunk. So already he's going to be forced off of his minions, not able to really go for anything. He's going to be using the parlay just to try and get any bit of poke out to Triple J as he can. And one thing to remember is that both Winona and Gustavus are on the lower rankings currently, so both these teams are kind of fighting to make sure they can get into the playoffs from this point forward. You have to remember that they are honestly in a situation where they are fighting to get into the playoffs, because real soon, if they do not start winning more games, one of these teams are not going to be making it. As you can see, Hecarim did do the very fast clear, as well as 0-5. He will probably be trying to match up going towards the top lane for a gank. Peter is already out of mana, as would be expected from an early Hecarim clear. He is very mana hungry, especially because of his Q having to be spammed quite often to make the clear speed that much faster. 1-5 is already going straight to the Scuttle Crab. Looks like he's going to be trying to gain some vision for his team. Or is potentially going to be waiting near the brush to spot out where Peter is. But instead, they're actually going to be spotting each other, and Peter is going to be getting the Scuttle Crab for his team, rather than 0-5. So all the effort they just put into taking that crab was wasted, because Peter kept his smite from blue buff and just smited the Scuttle Crab away. Now 0-5 had to put down his trinket into the river to give equal amounts of vision. And we can see that they're simply going back to clearing their jungle. There aren't too many trades going on with either side. However, the implications of that single Scuttle Crab are actually massive, because that means that if Peter decides to go and invade the enemy jungle, he will not have a ward to place for himself, and he could easily be sneaked up upon within his next clear. And it looks like Peter's actually looking for potential lane gank into this top lane if things are pushed in too heavy. When you'll actually be going around, hovering right around where the Scuttle Crab is, going into the enemy jungle, he will be spotted heading towards that area. And now we can see he's actually using that lack of ward from 0-5 to his advantage, going into the enemy jungle and trying to just spot out while people are. And it looks like 0-5 and Chupinjay are trying to just play a little trick here onto Oakenball, who is not going to be falling for it. They have the charge going directly onto Chupinjay. Meanwhile, 0-5 is going to be getting the first blood. Will it be an equal trade onto Chupinjay? And it looks like no, the slow's actually going to keep being Peter low enough, far enough away that he will be able to survive. 2 flashes burn on the side of Gustavus in order to get the first blood kill. Meanwhile, the bubble's going to be landing onto Fear Fracture, and 0-5 is going to be having to go away as fast as possible. The exhaust being burned from both sides onto the carriers, just trying to keep each other alive. Alright, and now we have it where both junglers have resets. One of them took a Skirmisher Saber, that being Peter, and now we can see that 0-5 also went to Caulfield's Warhammer, more flat AD. Meanwhile, Peter wants that extra clear potential in his jungle. He'll be going straight to his Raptors, and currently no one is taking the bottom side Scuttle Crab yet, hovering right around that Ocean Dragon, which, honestly, an Ocean Dragon for both these teams is going to be massive. You have Darius, Rengar, and Ari on the side of Gustavus, who are very reliant on having that flat damage stat, which Infernal Dragon will work wonders for them. Meanwhile, you have Gangplank and Victor on the side of Winona, who also desperately want that extra AD and AP on their side. However, we can see that Peter is down here with the charge gain onto Kalista and is not going to be able to really secure the kill. However, a hook lands onto Monkfish. Monkfish does have to flash away. Awesome's run from this bot lane, and 0-5 still goes down. 1-5 is down here. Let's see if he can try and sneak a kill onto Fear Fracture. Both heal and flash burned. Meanwhile, there's a fight in the top lane with Oakenball. Chupinjay just getting a bit of a trade-off. Nothing's really going to escalate out of that. Alright, now this entire time though, 0-5 could have potential to sneak a dragon right here. There are no wards from Winona at all. However, he is not too sure about it. He did see that Peter was incredibly low. It just doesn't seem like he wants to really risk it. Or he may be not too confident in his ability to really solo the dragon at this point, even though had Monkfish stayed, they could have easily done so. And now we can see that he's going to be trying to get a bit of vision into the enemy jungle. No wards, actually, 1 ward placed right at the top side of the red buff, and it will be there to spot out whenever Peter is trying to head towards a route near the Dragon Pit. But something much deeper would catch him as he's moving between camps, which would be far more vital. That's why whenever you're in solo queue, that ward is only good if you're about to take Dragon. Otherwise, go for something deeper in the enemy jungle when you know that they are backed. Just because when you have the freedom to do a deep ward, you'll be gaining much further vision into the enemy jungle, and you'll be seeing them as they go from camp to camp to camp. And that makes it so you have far more information than you would from a ward that's far away from the camps. And right now, just looking at the wave manipulation and the farm difference, we actually see that the bot lane 0-5 is 25 farm ahead of Fear Fracture. Mostly just because of the immense pressure that Monkfish has been giving to that bot lane. And it's just going to be a little bit until we try and see what these teams are going to be doing with these fights. We can see that Peter is still trying to go for ganks in this bot lane. 0-5 is going to be locked down. No hook is going to be landing though. It's going to be missing just barely. The Gangplank is on limit. Does come through. The cannon barrage secures the kill. Well, actually, no. Actually, it was Peter that secures the kill. He is still not level 6, though. So if he goes for this dragon without smite, 0-5, who does have his Thrill of the Hunt, could easily sneak in and take it himself. And now you can see that Chief Big Dog is going with the Spirit Rush, does get the Charm, and there will be an Ignite going down. That will be Peter going down. And 0-5 is trying to chase, misses the bullet, so the Brute will not land. The Flash from Funky B does keep him alive. However, you have to remember that Funky Bee does have that cleanse, so even if the Brute had landed, most likely the cleanse would have just been used and he would have been saved. And now we can see that there's a lot of trading going on between these two top laners, although Oakenball still has the oranges going for him, keeping him alive. That is not giving him enough time to pressure down by this dragon. The final hour proccing from Vayne. She is going very heavy onto both Chief Big Dog and 0-5, taking them both out, and that's going to be a free Infernal Dragon for the side of Winona now. That was a huge throw by Gustavus. They took way too long to transition from the earlier kill that they got into the dragon that they needed. Instead of delaying and trying to go for Funky B the moment they got the kill on the Peter, if they wanted to follow up with the dragon, they should have gone immediately over. And now we can see that it looks like Triple-J is trying to get a potential dive here onto Oakenball. He is building up the stack slowly with his passive and wants to go for that Noxian Guillotine. I'm not too sure if he'll be able to land it anytime soon, just because every single time a full or slow lands, you can easily just see that Oakenball is using the oranges to his advantage and getting them away. And actually, Triple-J is now going into place a ward down by the top river entrance of Peter's jungle side. He will be seeing that Peter is coming right out of there with a blue buff. So he will be spotted. It will be known that his blue was just taken, because if you highlight over champion, you can see the buff timers, and you will see that that blue buff is brand new. And that's going to be a blue buff taken away from Funky B, who has yet to build something along the lines of a Lost Chapter or another mana regeneration item. Meaning if he tries to stay in lane too long without this blue buff, he'll be running out of mana really fast, and he also will be having lower cooldown or higher cooldowns. So that will be less trading potential as well. He'll simply be having to sit back and try and clear whenever he's allowed. Which already, you can see that Funky B has an immense amount of wave clear. 1 Death Ray and 1 use of his Q can full clear a wave. That is what Victor's huge niche is. Meanwhile, Chief Big Dog requires 2 Orbs of Deceptions to clear a wave. And even then, the cooldown between the 2 Orbs of Deception right now is roughly 6 to 8 seconds, I believe. And let's see, just looking at some of the items, we can see that Callista is going, or 0-5 is going with a Bilgewater Cutlass, a dagger, so it's going to be a Blade of the Rune Cane early on. Meanwhile, Fear Fracture is going away from the Blade of the Rune Cane build and more into a Static Shiv, I believe it's going to be. It could either be a Static Shiv or a Rapid Fire Cannon. More likely going to be the Static Shiv, just to add Wave Clear to Fear Fracture, since having Wave Clear on Vayne usually is one of your weaker sides, and trying to compensate for your weaknesses is always a decent strategy to go with. Me personally, I prefer complementing strengths as compared to scouting weaknesses and going for something such as a Phantom Dancer, since Vayne is all about dueling, and Phantom Dancer really increases dueling potential. And you can see that the Flay is going to just barely miss 0-5, not landing. That allows a few auto attacks to get in and trade, as well as a slow. However, there is no reset on the Ren, so that means that if Peter were to have gone immediately, the Ren would be down. That actually would have been a prime time to go for an all-in by the side of Winona. Alright. I am sorry about the terrible casting, folks. Right now, I am just incredibly tired, and I can barely keep up with this. I'll be trying to give you the best I can. For now, I'm going to go analysis heavy for the rest of this game. I cannot keep up with too much of the play-by-play. Alright, so right now we still have about 2 to 3 minutes left on the ring before it's going to be spawning up. It's going to be a Mountain Dragon, which is going to be far more powerful for the side of Winona, just because they have the game plank, they have the Vayne, they have the Victor. Most likely going to be building a Lich Point at some point in the game. It's going to be having far more objective-taking potential than would the side of Gustavus. Meanwhile, Gustavus could still go for the dragon, simply deny it, and make it so that their tower-taking potential is more on an equal playing field to Winona. That way they can equally pressure towers should they have to go into something like a base race or a split push type of system. Which, in all honesty, the moment that Oakenball... Oh, never mind, there is the hook going to be landing with a tidal wave going to be knocking up every single person on Winona. They are trying to escape, however 0-5 will be going down. There's the Cannon Barrage from Gameplay going to be getting and helping secure the kill onto 0-5. The only person left alive right now is Monkfish over in this bot lane, and he will be escaping using both Exhaust and Flash to escape. There's going to be all summoners for the bot lane of Gustavus going down, as well as Winona's going down to try and secure that kill. But end up being a 2-for-0 trade. However, needing the Cannon Barrage there to secure the kill for 0-5 made it so that now he has less wave clear for himself on top side, as well as less safety, because the amount of slowing field that the Cannon Barrage gives could really keep him alive should Chupinjay go for a hard all-in like this. We can actually see that Chupinjay is going for a hard all-in right now, which could be a potential threat. Both flashes are burned from the top laners, which means that there's going to be 5 minutes of a Flashless Darius and a Flashless Gangplank. The Flashless Darius is a little less impactful than the Flashless Gangplank, because as a Gangplank you need to be able to escape any threats. And as of right now, with Gangplank not having extremely high cooldowns without the 40% or the level 5 on his barrels, he will not be recharging them too fast. So in all honesty, he'll be getting into a threat zone in order to try and be clearing waves, to where should Owen 5 or Chief Big Dog come up to the top lane, which actually Chief Big Dog may be going down, and that will be the death of Chief Big Dog, having the death rate into the Chaos Storm and the Q to follow up, being a full 100-0 case. That is where Victor has an immense amount of burst damage. We were talking about that earlier, how that is what's going to be offering to these team fights, as well as some sustained damage should the Chaos Storm sit gently on top of one of the members of the side of Gustavus. And now we can see that the gold lead is roughly 3,000. However, it's still 15 minutes in, so things can really change should Gustavus start pulling some of these team fights around. The thing is that 0-5 knew that the dragon would be coming up soon. There was a timer. Every single person playing the game can see it, and they should know that they shouldn't, or that they can't allow Winona to have a mountain dragon like this. It's a free 10% extra true damage, 2 towers and objectives for Winona when they have the Victor and other people that I was mentioning earlier. Honestly, that is a huge mistake from the side of Gustavus. They really need to try and control the dragons far more effectively. That is one of the mistakes that they've been having lately. They do decently in the early game trades and team fights. They're just really lackluster when it comes to dragon control. And we were talking about gold lead earlier. Let's look at which lanes are making that gold lead the biggest. Right now we can actually see that despite having less CS, because of the assist from going into the bot lane, Oakenball has more gold than Chupinjay, only by a little bit. The main gold differential right now between any of the two teams is going to be in the mid lane, with the Victor and the Ahri having a 1,000 gold difference. And there is the Cannon Barrage trying to keep himself alive. The slowing field is not enough though, because he got pulled in and slowed by the Bulla from Rengar. And that should be the tower in the top lane going down. If anything, he could have used the Cannon Barrage to secure the next minion wave going down, so that it would be a little bit harder for them to try and take this tower. And we can see that Victor's going for yet another kill. There is the Chaos Storm. However, the Charm lands, slowing him down, making it so that the Chaos Storm will not be able to easily follow. The Spirit Rush also end up being used in order to make it so that the distance could be secured to be far enough. Now, Oakenball will be coming up in just about 2 seconds. He does have his teleport up, but there is no reason to use it whatsoever, because the tower is already gone, and the minions are nowhere close to your own tower to where there is a threat. And in the meantime, we can actually see that Punky B and Gifts Lee decide to rotate towards the mid lane and are going for that tower instead to make it even trend. It looks like the tower will be going down unless if a tower wave is used right now. Oh. Okay. Interesting enough, they actually still could have easily taken that tower. It would have just been taking 1 or 2 tower shots at most. I don't know why they didn't really say to finish it off. I guess with the very high wave clear of Victor, they'll be reaching the tower soon enough anyways. And you can see that Funky B is opting back. He does have 800 gold, so it's mostly going to be going towards finishing the Abyssal Scepter as soon as possible. Or perhaps just getting an upgrade. And actually, no, he cancels the back. He's going to be going towards this blue buff, looking for potential steal. Or maybe even looking to... Yeah, no, they're looking to steal the blue buff. And instead, they're now going for a pick onto Monkfish, who burns his flash in order to try and escape. And still dies because of Vayne's passive, giving that extra movement speed while chasing Monkfish. Now the hook goes out straight towards Chief Big Dog, end up having to burn his flash in order to stay alive. And there the tower finally goes down. The local gold going to every single member of the team of Winona. And now they're having a huge opportunity to just cement their lead, going for more towers. They're having Thresh tank it currently, and they're simply going to be waiting for the next wave to come up. 0-5 and Chupinjay are waiting on the silence. It looks like Chupinjay was just taking the red buff. Not sure if he actually did take it or if he was just near it. It looks like he was just near it, and it hasn't even spawned yet, so I don't know why I thought he may have been taking it. I'm stupid. But either way, you can see now that Fear Fracture is going to be heading towards the bot lane, trying to catch that wave that's starting to climb up. If anything, he could have let it build up far more and then or catch it right as it's collapsing into the tower, so that it would be stacked as much as possible, and you could collect experience from other lanes in the meantime. That would be that would be the optimal system. But by setting up the wave to push, he's still giving his team an advantage by making it so that eventually someone will have to deal with the wave catching up towards the side of Gustavus, and they can then rotate and pressure on other sides of the map where they'll have a numbers advantage. Speaking of numbers advantage, over on the top lane, you can actually see that 0 and 5 or ChuBinJ are right up there trying to get some ward coverage cleared out, as well as pressure the top side turrets. Not too many wards were actually placed, so it was more clearing wards than taking wards. And not too much action is happening between either team. I'm a little disappointed that the teams aren't going for any more big strategic plays in terms of stealing objectives, because in all honesty, there have been a number of opportunities that I've seen for them to just try and rush or sneak an objective where they hesitate, such as mid lane, back in the top lane when ChuBinJ and 0 and 5 were there and just hesitated to try and let it tank for a bit. And right now, the bot lane 0 and 5 and Monkfish backing is perfectly fine, just because you do not see Funky B or Get Sleeps coming over towards the bot lane, but they are missing, with Fear Fracture heavily farming in the mid lane, would suggest that they're not planning to really do a push anytime soon. You know, we can see that 1 5 is going to be using his ultimate, trying to pincer off Oakenball, knowing that he's going to be flashing and... Okay. I'm actually tilted. I'm actually tilted from that play, because he would not have had to use his flash to go over the wall. Like, it looks like... Alright, gonna let this play go out. Peter does go down to the Rend, as well as the Spirit Rush having to be used in order to land the Charm. There is the knockup from the Nami with the Callisto ultimate. The Tidal Wave also goes out. It's not going to be hitting anyone, but that is going to be a 3-for-0 trade, long extended trade from the side of Gustavus, making it so they're slowly climbing back into this game. Will they be able to take the mid tower? Not really, because none of the minions are up, and Funky B is right there to clear the waves the moment that the minions will be crashing. So instead, it looks like Gustavus is going to be finally turning their attention towards the dragon, going for the second mountain dragon, which, if they can secure it, rather than getting completely taken out by Funky B and Fear Fracture right here, that would be great for their team. They already had given up one mountain dragon against a team that is very objective heavy, and now they're able to secure the run. And, ooh, the 1v1 between Oakenball and 0 and 5. The thing that actually ended up keeping Oakenball alive was he held onto his orange for a very long time, because part of the orange's healing is percent missing HP. So by holding on to it, he actually made it so that the heal was slightly more, and that little bit of extra health is what kept him alive in the long run. So congrats to you, Oakenball, knowing exactly how to play that champion of Gameplank. He is quite difficult to master, but you seem to be pulling it off really well. And let's see, back in Champion Select, one of the biggest things I mentioned was how a lot of the lanes had a slight favor towards Gustavus, and I could see the fight still going to Gustavus' favor if they go with, say, a 1-3-1 split push strategy, or 1-1-3 actually is what I want to see, where it's ChuBinJ in the top lane, and then 0 and 5 in the mid lane, with everyone else towards the bot lane trying to shove in pressure objectives. And you have 0 and 5 only in the mid lane whenever his ultimate is up, since he could easily run over and add pressure to where people are trying to take towers from. And ooh, the hook lands onto 0 and 5. The top left is going to try and keep him alive. However, it is too late. There is a redemption being used for solo healing. I don't know why the solo heal is used right there. The final hour does get procced off, does not finish off Chief Big Dog. However, the Spirit Rush does go through and will be hit off by the onslaught of shadows. Now, the Thrill of the Hunt does get procced off by 0 and 5. He goes really hard to Get Sleeps, ends up killing him, as well as Hecarim. ChuBinJ getting the kill moments himself. not using his ultimate for it either. He ended up just using a few auto attacks and decimates. And there's currently a stacked wave in the top lane towards the side of Winona, with the Gustavus having their own wave to deal with over in the bot lane. Alright, so while that fight ended up being a pretty equal trade of a 2-for-1, in all honesty, that fight did not get much for either team except for a bit of extra gold, which, trying to get a fight that only gives gold and nothing else, only helps if the gold is close to equal. So 2 kills to 1, pretty equal. And sadly, that only helps the team that is behind in the long run, because it's allowing the game to delay and allowing the people to reach equal power spikes, because eventually you are going to reach full items, and once you reach full items, you simply put are not going to be able to stop and get other items of your own choice. Speaking of items, let's take a look at what some of the people have been building. We can see that Monkfish is going for the Lock of the Iron Solar. It's going to be very powerful against the heavy AoE burst that we're talking about Funky B has, especially with the Chaos Storm and Death Ray, as well as the explosive barrels from Oakenball, going to be doing immense damage the moment he gets some more items under his belt. My imagination is that with the amount of diving potential that Gustavus has, it'd be very good for Oakenball to go something such as a Steric Stage, to make it so that both Trinity Force will be doing more damage with its proc, as well as simply giving him a lot more sustain and innate tankiness. And it looks like they're going to be trying a top tower tier 1 for bot tower tier 1, with the only person pushing in bot lane is going to be Trippin' Meanwhile, the Spirit Rush is burned by Ahri to try and get away from the fight. She does still die off to the Death Ray from Victor, and there's the final round procced by Fear Fracture going very hard, killing off Trippin' as well as 0-5. There goes 0-5. There goes Monkfish, and that's going to be the entire side of Gustavus going down. And every single member of Winona is still up and living. And that is going to be the top tier 2 going down, as well as the inhibitor turrets and inhibitor, most likely inhibitor. The only person going to be up is going to be Chief Big Dog within 15 seconds. That teleport, way too early. If you're going to teleport while your team is taking a tower, always do it to the minion that is currently taking tower aggro, because that will allow the minion to eat about 2 to 3 tower shots, which a little bit of extra time like that can go a long way. In the meantime, we can see that most of Winona is going to be resetting now. They'll be picking up some more items from this level, so you can see that Peter is most likely going to be going for something such as a Spear Visage, or maybe even a Dead Man's Plate next, something that will add a lot more tankiness and resistances. With Hecarim, you only need a really one offensive item wonder, which is going to be the Trinity Force. You're not meant to do a lot of burst damage, you're meant to do a little more sustained damage with your Q and the Red Smite. Everyone else, we can see that Funky B has completed the Lich Bane, completed the Abyssal Scepter, and is going to be having a huge power spike if he ever gets towards a death cap himself. Alright, and that's the Ruined Hurricane is finished on 0-5, as well as the Blade of the Ruined Cane. It looks like a QSS or a Quicksilver Sash, as well as a potential Mercurial Scimitar, is what's going to be finishing up for the third item of 0-5. Alright, and finally they'll be going onto the Baron, trying to sneak it. There are no wards at all from the side of Winona, or from the side of Gustavus watching that, so that is a completely free Baron. You have to remember that the side of Winona has a Mountain and Infernal Dragon, so that is essentially a free Baron. That was a free Baron over, actually. Not essentially, that was a free Baron. That's part of the reason why the moment that Baron is up at 20 minutes, you always want to try and keep wards around it, especially when no one is visible on the map. You should never assume that your enemies aren't near Baron if you can't see them, just because it is way too risky, as we just saw. That free Baron is going to go a long way. They could easily constantly siege into this mid lane. They have the Mountain Dragon still. They have the Victor with Lich Bane. He'll be doing insane amounts of damage to this tower, especially if he can get his Q proc to balance along with it. And as we can see, they're already going to be taking down the inhibitor for themselves, rotating straight towards the top lane inhibitor, and having a bit of tower pressure as well towards the Nexus. Meanwhile, the Final Hour is coming in from the Vayne. There's going to be using something to try and stay invisible as long as possible. Still going to be dying off. And the Tidal Wave is going to be going through, not landing on anyone. We see that Oakenball is
still up, trying to stack up how many barrels he can to get a nice one, 3-barrel chain. And everyone else from the side of Winona is just going very heavy, as well as Gustavson. It looks like this should be game right here because it is 3 members to 2 members. The only one being up to try and really defend is going to be Owen 5. And both towers already down on the Nexus. We can see that Peter is gone. Will Chupinjay be able to defend? It looks like he will. However, there are 3 super minions as well as Baron buff minions all around the Nexus. 0 and 5 is back up, and it looks like it's going to be game number 2 going over to Winona. GG's coming all around from both teams, and congratulations to Winona for winning game 2 of today. That was an amazing game to watch. A little bit lacking in action, but I really appreciate the focus towards group rotations that you guys have shown. It obviously shows that you guys are communicating a lot more than you used to, and there's improvement still to come with your team. I look forward to seeing how well you guys can do in the future weeks. As far as people that were big MVPs of that match, I'm definitely going to give it to both Fear Fracture as well as Funky B. They both did immense amounts of damage. I'm not really sure who did more damage. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Funky B just because he has the AoE factor. Oh, okay. The most damage is actually Oakenball with 21,000. But aside from that, I'm still going to keep it towards Funky B just because he had a lot of pressure all around the map, as well as making it so that he really helped securing those early dragons, as well as setting up the ward vision around himself to make so he could stay safe from the Owen or from Owen 5, from Chief Big Dog, and allowed him to scale really heavily. Other than that, though, that is going to be game number 2. Come join us for game number 3, which is going to be, let me just double check and make sure. I know MNSU Mavericks are going to be playing again over on the red side. I just want to make sure what's going to be over on the blue side. Let me check real quick. And my internet is crashing. Sorry about this. Alright, it's going to be St. Cloud versus the Mavericks. Alright.
To what we love, risk the follow, we have felt it all come crashing down from far above. Stars are rising, countless worlds colliding, only one will take it all. Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we make the final
right, and we are back, folks. We're going to be going into game number 3 soon with St. Cloud versus MNSU Mavericks. Now, we just saw the Mavericks playing earlier today with game number 1, where Feels Batman and Gigabyte had a wonderful showing as well as under 50%, doing an amazing job on the Kazakhs. But since they were playing just earlier today, I wonder if St. Cloud is going to be trying to target ban against some of those champions, such as the Cassiopeia or the Kazakhs. We could also possibly see a Darius ban come in as well. For this game, just because of how tired I am, sadly, I'm not going to be going into play almost at all. I'll be bringing back the impact of certain team fights. But as the team fights are falling out, I'm going to try and simply let them happen. I cannot keep up the energy. I really apologize, folks. But I'll be trying to give a full analytical view into this game to let you get into the minds of the players. As for the first ban, we can actually see a Lulu coming out, so that's still going to be a support-focused ban. She is an incredibly powerful support, and it denies the entry to those hyper carry bot laners that we had seen come out back on Tuesday. Especially that one game that we saw with the Lulu Kog'Maw combination, that was just incredibly devastating. Now, what will the ban be from the side of Mankato? Oh, it's going to be a Fizz. Okay. So if I remember correctly, Spain's 24 has played Fizz once before in the league. I don't remember when. I'm pretty sure he has. And by doing that target ban, you're going to be getting rid of a part of the person's champion pool. Now, if you really want to try and hit someone where it hurts, you got to take away an entire champion pool, not just one piece. You have to take away everything of it. But right now, we can see that St. Cloud is going for more targeted bans for things that he simply don't want to deal with, rather than targeting one specific member of the team. Seeing as, especially with the performance of Feels Batman on the Darius back in the last game. Well, not last game, back in Mavericks' last game, that they do not really want to deal with that again. And it looks like they are still targeting more of the specific champions that Sprint 24 plays, since they are banning away Ziggs as well. And now we can see a Poppy ban also probably targeted towards Feels Batman. Now, since there is also a tank taken out from the top lane, we may see something such as a Nautilus instantly locked in for the side of St. Cloud to simply make it so that there is no other tank to be followed up. And in that case, Kato would be forced to go something such as a Fiora. Or they may bait Kato into taking the Nautilus thing and there's no other tank available, and then pick Fiora from themselves. Or even Kled. Kled's also good against tanks, and I know that Combra's played Kled before. Now, the final ban is going to be Brand, which Brand has played both in the mid and the support role. I don't remember USADC as beta for playing Brand. I'm pretty sure when it came to the mid supports, he was more of a Malzahar player. And we can actually see that the first pick is going to be a support. It's really prioritizing that Thresh. I'm not sure if it's prioritized as much as it is using Thresh as a blind pick, though, just because Thresh is such a versatile support. You can easily pick him up without worrying about getting countered too hard. The closest thing to a counter in the bot lane is going to be that Caitlyn, just because Caitlyn outranges most of Thresh's threat range. So it's going to be very hard for Thresh to try and all in onto the Caitlyn. And we also see that Ivern's picked up a very high prioritized pick coming in for the side of Mankato. Now we see that Zac is going to be picked up to try and counteract that. Zac has a much higher range of impact than Ivern will. However, Zac's clear speed is going to be much slower than Ivern's, at least in the mid stage of the game. And to try and counteract that, Caitlyn is going to be an Ezreal who can easily all in with the Arcane Shift and then use the pulses from his Q to try and simply whittle Caitlyn down. So it's going to be a poke fest between the two, one with auto attacks, one with abilities. And let's see how they try and retaliate. Will they lock in a support since they know it's there already and try and leave either jungle or mid or top in for the counter pick? The last time we saw that they decided to leave the top lane open for the counter pick, but it looks like this time they're going for the potential mid lane left open for a counter pick, since they're going for a Renekton and a Braum. So they're going to be having Braum to counter the Thresh. It's actually not bad at all, because they have Braum to block the Ezreal's ultimates as well as any of his Qs that throws out. You also have it where you can create a massive slowing field so that you can disrupt the team fight, especially if Zac goes in and then you put the slowing field from Braum. It's going to make it really hard for the side of St. Cloud to follow up. And for the Renekton, he's just overall an incredibly powerful top laner right now that can handle just about anyone over there. The only thing that I would say could really match up against the Renekton A Jace could work out decently, but I would love to see a Rumble more so. Or even maybe a heavy tank. Because I could also see something very heavy like a Nautilus coming in right now, but it looks like it's going to be Jace is locked in. Now that could also be nope. Okay, but the Orianna that signifying that's going to be a Jace in the top lane, a Orianna in the mid lane. And now that they know that's the Orianna in the mid lane, they could easily pick something such as Ahri to counteract that, because Ahri, with her all-in potential, can easily murder Orianna come level 6. The big issue is, though, is that before level 6, Ahri is going to be slightly vulnerable. Now we can see the teams that are simply trained champions and trying to load out. And I actually really like the draft phase from both teams right now. We can see that they saw that the Thresh was the first pick from the side of St. Cloud. It was a very generalist pick, one that you don't really get to counter too easily. But they still went and counteracted that with a very safe AD carry, who no matter you pick as the enemy AD carry, can still play highly safe against both the Thresh and Nezreal. And they also went with the immediate Ivern lock-in, which is a priority S-tier type pick. Normally you could see people go for a Graves against an Ivern just because a Graves could easily counter jungle an Ivern should he run into Ivern while in the jungle. Graves can completely destroy an Ivern. Just saying that flat out, Graves can demolish Ivern easily. However, if they knew that they would need someone tankier rather than a full damage dealer because they would want something such as a Jace or even a Kled top lane, potentially, then they would really want to avoid having another damage dealer in the jungle. So going with Zac was still very smart because Zac can do well against Ivern because of his range of effect, or range of effectiveness. Meanwhile, the next thing to go in after Zac was going to be the Ezreal to try and counteract that Caitlyn because they can both poke each other very easily, so that's far more a skill matchup than it is anything else. But with Ezreal being so skill shot based, it left Braum open on the table to be picked against it, and Braum against Ezreal is not a favorable matchup just because Braum can block most of everything that Ezreal throws out. He actually can block everything that Ezreal throws out. And he can also easily slow down Ezreal, knock him up, and everything else in between to protect against all-ins against Caitlyn, which, again, she's a safe AD carry, and Braum is highly complementing that. Meanwhile, the next set of picks coming in from the side of St. Cloud end up being a finish off with Orianna and Jace, which the only issue with that is the person left open for the lane that was left open for the final pick on the side of Mankato was the mid lane. So picking the Ahri and leaving open, or picking the Orianna and leaving open the Ahri, basically allowed you to lose the lane immediately. And now we just have a minute 20 until we'll be going into the game. To mention the summoner spells, we have Jace with teleport flash. Everything else is everything seems pretty standard. The only thing to note is that both supports are running Ignite. That's the only real big thing. And with the double Ignite, it signifies that both lanes potentially want to go very aggressive, or they're also trying to deny the sustain that's going to be coming from other members of the team, such as you have sustain that'll be coming from Caitlyn, because Caitlyn is very frequently running Warlord's Bloodlust, because if you're able to proc Warlord's Bloodlust with a proc from the headshot passive, that's going to be an immense amount of lifesteal coming your way. Meanwhile, it could also be trying to block Renekton's healing, as well as the additional healing that are coming in from Ivern, such as with Redemption or things like that, because he also gives healing through Athena's and Holy Grail, one of the most common item spot from Ivern. And then there's also the Ignites on top of Braum, most likely to block some of the sustain that'll be coming in through Zac. And now we'll be getting into the game in just about 10 seconds. I'm going to be taking this moment to just relax, get some water, and try and give you guys an idea of what each team is going to want to do to play to their strengths.
Alright, and we are getting into game. And we can actually see that teams are going to be going for an invade really early on. Ransack Moose is already prepared with the Braum, and he may be trying to go for a little bit of a Winter's Bite type of invade. He's going all the way around. Will he be able to get the Q off onto Use ADC as baits? It looks like he is just too far away. Alright, so the invade is not going to work out. However, that did do a successful scouting because they were able to get the ward out. They saw that every single member is there. And if they can spot where Zac is, they actually do not spot that Zac is there, so they do not know whether or not Zac is going to be starting towards the red buff or the blue buff. The only other thing that really could give it away is going to be whether or not the lanes come in delayed or immediately into lane. Alright. And we can see that actually Ivern is going to be starting up towards the red buff side of things. Most likely going to be going from red straight to blue to try and get the smite off. Which, if Combray is smart, he will be dropping a ward, which he does. Alright, and that ward is going to be there to make sure that under 50% does not try to go immediately for the blue buff and steal it under Burgay's nose. Meanwhile, Burgay is most likely going to be wanting to go straight towards the Raptor camp, or potentially Wolves. Or we may even see him go straight to his blue buff to make sure it stays safe, because if Ivern saves that smite for it, there's no way he's going to be able to deny it. And it looks like the blue will be going over to under 50% and gets a smite off, and he is going to be pincered in between Combray and Burgay right now, and he is going to be able to get away. He gets the free blue buff completely right underneath Burgay's nose. He was spotted, but there is nothing to really be done about it, and Burgay's whole clear is actually now just massively slowed down, simply because he wasted so much time walking over to the blue buff. Now, in the meantime, we can see that under 50% is sending a lot of his camps up to be taken with his passive. He will probably be back in just a moment to make it so he can go secure the camps. Or in that's Combray versus Feels Batman. Pretty much an equal matchup at the moment. It's going to be around level 3 that things really get spicy, because that's where Combray is going to unlock his full potential, having the all-in burst and knockaway effect with Jace's melee form. And there the hook lands right onto Ransack Moose. Nothing is really going to be able to come off of that, but we do see that Use ADC as bait is going to be having the Stoneborn Pact, Keystone Mastery, because you can see the little mark right above the head. And as mentioned back on Tuesday, a lot of people think Stoneborn Pact is a charge system type of mastery, when in reality, it's not a charge system. It's a pure thing that's there and lasts for the full 4-second effect. So where any auto attack or on-hit effects that lands there will give you that bonus healing. And now we can see that Burgay is quite behind under 50%. Under 50% is already close to level 5. Meanwhile, Burgay is still only level 3. There is an all-in going between Feels Batman and Combray. Combray, however, is already incredibly low on mana, and Burgay is here to try and get the all-in down onto Gigabytes. The big issue is, though, is he was out of range. He's only level 3, and without having a level 2 or 3 rank into his Elastic Slingshot, his ganking potential is incredibly weak. You usually want to wait until level 4 or 5 as Zac to go for an actual gank, because your range early on is incredibly low. Meanwhile, we can see that under 50% is trying his best to simply mess with Burgay while he is jungling, to simply slow him down, while Feels Batman is harassing Combray incredibly hard. And he is completely out of mana. He'll be forced to back in just a second, unless he wants to try and overstay. But that'd be risking getting Dovin. Dovin? Dived. And he will most likely have to be burning his teleport to come back to lane, unless he wants to give up a lot of minions. And yes, there is a teleport. Which means that now right after clearing this way, Feels Batman will have a free option to simply back and then return to lane. With a few items, he could even get just a few lawn swords if he wants to start building towards that Black Cleaver or even a Hydra. And it looks like he's actually going to be picking up a Lawn Sword and Dorn's Blade to give himself a lot more sustain in lane, as well as a refillable potion, so he won't have to buy any more each time he backs. And the nice part about refillable potion is all it takes is 4 uses, and you've already made your money's worth again. So it takes 1 back basically to make the potion worth it. In the meantime, we can see that Burgay is down here looking to gank, and the Lantern actually gets wasted because Berke had already started using the Elastic Slingshot when the Lantern went out, so he can't really take it and then launch himself. It's just kind of pointless. However, with Berge revealing himself over in the bot side, he is allowing under 50% to completely steal the camps all in the topside jungle. He's only saying them for now because he doesn't have smite, but it won't be too long before he can take them for himself. Ooh, actually, under 50% ended up getting spotted just barely, and this allows Berge and Sean Nelson to go and try and take this Infernal Dragon for themselves. We can see that the side of Mankato is here to try and stop that. Will St. Cloud be able to escape? No, they won't. Berge is still there, just barely alive. Feels Batman is trying to rush in and get the kill. He does get it. He gets a double kill for himself. Meanwhile, the Spirit Rush is used by Gigabyte to try and secure the kill onto Sean Nelson. He does escape with his life, having to burn all summoners as well as his Arcane Shift, which is now just giving over this Infernal Dragon to Mankato, which seems to be something they're very good at. They're very good at going into a Dragon Pit, forcing the other team off and then taking it for himself, because we saw them do that back in Game 1, and now they're doing it again here in Game 3. Oh, and one thing you guys got to see there for just a split second was the Scuttle Crab eating the honey fruit, stealing it right from under 50%. Talk about scumbag Scuttle Crab. But the only real scumbag here is gonna be Feels Batman, just constantly harassing Combray, never letting him see the light of day. Granted, you have to give him some credit. Combray is still ahead in farm compared to Feels Batman, even though he did end up wasting a lot of time trying to go for those trades and losing them in the end. Combray is still somehow keeping even in farm. The only other thing to really talk about right now is going to be the fact that under 50% is doing an excellent job of simply stealing every single buff possible. We can see that he stole the red buff recently from Berge. As you can tell by the little mark signaling that someone could go grab the red buff for themselves from his team. And I'm surprised that they're not going to have Gigabytes or someone else try and simply walk down there and take it for themselves. But it looks like most lanes are going to be shoved in pretty hard, allowing under 50% to just continue invading into the enemy jungle. And for those of you that don't know, when you have... Oh, actually, no, it looks like a fight's about to break out. And we can also see that Gigabyte is coming in from behind. He'll begin here before Sprint 24. Sprint 24 actually used the Ghost to try and reach her a little bit faster, but he's still going to be here last. And Gigabyte is be able to kind of zone Sprint 24 away from his team. And he does have Spirit Rush out, so he could easily try and turn it around and go for an all-in. However, it would be a little bit risky because they are both equal with those lost chapters and having their ultimates up. Meanwhile, it looks like they're going to be forcing the side of St. Cloud away from the turrets and going for this tower. And they shouldn't be able to get it right now, just because... Yeah, no, they won't be able to get it. The minions are too low. With the next wave or two, they may be able to get it if they can force Sean Nelson away from the wave. But that would definitely need some jungle pressure in order to force on. They may be able to get it if they both rush it down. It would just be at big risk of getting all in underneath tower, especially because use ADC as baits has Ignite up. No, actually that hook literally just signified the death of the turrets, because you shouldn't just throw blind hooks as a Thresh without having some goal in mind, and simply trying to land the hook right there is not where your goal should be. Instead, you should not throw out the hook to keep it as a threat. And we can see that Berge is trying to go on to I Love Varus, but since the lockup was on Ransack Moose, that's where he should have focused most of his follow-up on. Instead, having split focus is what allowed those people to escape, and Ransack Moose is still trying to get away. He will be going around by Gigabyte trying to stay alive, and he'll actually be catching up and gaining auto in to get the assist. So funny enough, Ransack Moose went from a fight down in the bot lane all the way to a fight mid to still get an assist. And as I was saying about that hook, it would have been much better for use ADC's bait to simply hold on to his hook. That way he could keep it as a threat, and then he could walk up, play someone, and just keep autoing, saying, if you stay here, I could hook you. I may not hook you, but I could. I have it up. You know I do. And that threat alone is zoning potential, which is what could have kept the turret alive. just long enough for them to have some extra help come in. Meanwhile, we can see that the ace of the hole is going to be used on Sean Nelson, trying to force him away. Not really necessary because Caitlyn is ahead enough with the BF sword compared to the pickaxe, so you can simply walk up and zone Sean Nelson manually. Not really sure what the whole point of that was. Maybe just because the ability... Honestly, the ability doesn't have too much use aside from that. I will be honest, Ace in the Hole is not too much useful ability except for trying to simply poke someone down when you're going for an objective. But we can see that the dragon has a minute 45 left. It's going to be a mountain dragon. And in terms of which team is going to be more useful of it, it's definitely going to be the side of St. Cloud just because Jace is a better split pusher than Renekton, as well as... well, no. Actually, I have to think about this one. Yeah, I'm still gonna stick with St. Cloud just because Jace is a better split pusher, and also the overall team of St. Cloud, not with their whether or not they're high or behind or ahead, just the actual composition comparison, would be able to take Baron much faster with the Mountain Dragon than would Mankato. However, Mankato was utilizing their early game potential in their team to their full advantage, going for these dives, going for these insane kills, and pressuring the objectives as much as they can, to simply drain down St. Cloud of every single ounce of energy that they have. And Cumbre does have his teleport up. He has about 10 seconds. Whether or not the teleport will be able to get up, or whether he'll be coming back in time or not, I'll have to look at the tower real quick. And with 4 seconds left, he will not back up in time. If he tries using his teleports and then it gets cancelled because the tower goes down, that'd be very sad. If anything, he should be teleporting down bot lane and helping his team go for this kill. And no, he does not. It's going to be another 3v2 that is won in the favor of Mankato, and now we can see that Gigabyte is down here with the Spirit Rush, helping out secure 2 of these kills. There is teleport from Cumbre. Meanwhile, Fuels Batman is still just pushing up this top tower with under 50% counter jungling Burge. We can see that he is 2 levels ahead with the massive amount of counter jungling that he's been doing. His power is going to be completely insane this game, and they're going to be taking this tower for themselves. They have 4 more cast minions left with under 50% and Fuels Batman there. It should be going down with the next minion wave. Cumbre will be there, but I'm not sure if you'll be able to force them off in time. Yeah, with a missed EQ combo, then the tower will definitely not be going down in, or then they won't be able to defend the tower in time. It's going to be a tier 2 turret going down in favor of Mankato. Potentially another one over here because they sent 2 people up in the top lane when the tower was already doomed. They should have simply let it go and focus on defending bots. Well, even though the tower didn't go down, there's still enough damage on that tower. If you simply let a minion wave build up, it'll then be able to pressure that tower to where you can try and force objectives, such as right now, there is a Dragon up, there is Rift Herald up. They're going to be giving that Rift Herald over to Fuels Batman, most likely going to be having him go down towards the bot lane instead and pressure down there while everyone else focuses towards mid lane. Since going for a split push towards the inhib top tower isn't going to be nearly as useful because it's less likely you're going to be able to get that tower. He could go for it because he is ahead enough, and having it where trying to split push closer to the enemy base will keep whoever's stopping him from split pushing further away from his allies. That would also be a benefit. But in my own opinion, I feel like going bot would be far better because you're more likely to get the objective down there. But it looks like he still wants to stick to his top lane. He wants to stay on his own little personal island. And the Mountain Dragon is still up. There are plenty of wards covering it all around from Mankato. Nothing actually in St. Cloud's jungle just yet. However, something could easily get placed once they all reach down there. Ransack Moose is just following up behind the rest of his team. We can see that Fuels Batman has backed, and we'll see whether or not he decides to group up with his team or if he's going to go split pushing off in one of the side lanes. It looks like he's actually going to be heading down mid and trying to pressure the mid tower while they go for this dragon. And while they're continuing signing up for the dragon, he's going to be taking a blue buff. They have I Love Varus starting up the dragon himself. And with this Mountain Dragon, they'll be having a lot more tower potential, a lot more potential for taking Dragon. And don't forget, right now they have Fuels Batman doing a very heavy split push with that Mountain Dragon. It's only going to help that split push even further. What I'd also like to see is them utilizing the Infernal Dragon to its full potential as well as the Mountain Dragon in Cohesion. Instead of having Renekton go for something more sustain-oriented, such as a Ravenous Hydra, they could go for something such as Titanic Hydra. And the reason why I say that is because the active of Titanic Hydra works on towers, while Ravenous does not. And having that extra auto reset on top of a tower to get the extra damage with the 10% true damage from Mountain Dragon and the 8% AD increase from Infernal Dragon will be giving you a lot more tower damage than would the tiny bit of extra AD in comparison to Titanic Hydra that Ravenous would have. It's something that we'll have to see the way that the team is going to be strategizing. Otherwise, most item builds seem pretty expected. Nothing out of the ordinary that I'm seeing right now. The only thing I would say is I think with the amount of sustain that this feels Batman and under 50% are going to be having, as well as I love Varus, I would much rather see a Grievous Wounds item being picked up soon from Ezreal, such as Executioner's Calling. Because that would make it so that they could stop some of the sustain coming in from the side of Mankato, which would make it so that they can't hard push lanes as easily when they're going to Siege. And there's going to be the all-in onto UZADC as bait. He is going to be taken down with that extra range auto attack. The Elastic Slingshot is going to be missing. There comes Daisy. There comes the Shockwave. And the Glacial Fissure is going to be knocking him back even further. The Winter's Bite procs down and he gets a double kill. I love Varus going at it. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, there comes the Fury of the Sands from Feels Batman. He just completely destroys Combrei. And Gigabyte goes in with the Spirit Rush. Asynol comes in, knocks over Sean Nelson, and every single person from the side of St. Cloud are going to be going down. That's going to be bot tier 2 and top inhibitor turret going down. Really showing how the Infernal Dragon and Mountain Dragon are really working for this team, as well as that early game focus. Could this be a 20-minute game, actually? They are already at the base, and it's only 17:30. I'd be really surprised to see if they can make that 20-minute mark for ending the game. But as always, something could happen, such as a huge throw, like right now. There's going to be a 2v1. It could be a throw, but Feels Batman could also just be turned around for himself. He does have that Black Cleaver stacks going up onto both UZADC's as Bates and Burgay, and he's just completely devastating both of these players. He takes down one for himself, but actually Burgay still had the passive up. So all he ended up doing in the long run is just taking down the passive, and you can see the question pins going straight onto Feels Batman. Wondering whether or not the guy feels sane or if he was simply overstaying. That's one of those throws I'm talking about. Because that is shutdown gold. That is a lot of pressure to get some free farm up in the top lane and bot lane for Combrei. And that's also going to be simply delaying some of the gold that Feels Batman can regain for himself. In a way, you could also argue it's basically a slightly longer back, but every bit of second counts. In League of Legends, every second matters, to where if you simply hit your S and stop for even part of a second, that second can make the difference of a team fight because of where you're standing in it. Now yes, it sounds a little ridiculous to think about it like that, but that's simply how it is, and you can see that Mankato is using that knowledge to their best. They are simply capitalizing on every single opportunity they have. They're capturing every single objective possible. They are grouping up and forcing everything they can, and it looks like they're going to be trying to wait it out until Baron spawns and take it out for themselves. Meanwhile, letting the minions collapse into the side lanes, build up a wave, and then crash into the inhibitors that are currently exposed, to make it where someone from the side of St. Cloud will eventually have to deal with the waves, and it will be a guaranteed 5v4, or even less, because right now we can see that UZADC as bait and Springs 24 are just being demolished. The Spirit Rush end up being used by Gigabyte to secure the kill onto Springs 24, and meanwhile the Glacial Fissure used by Ransack Moose to initiate that whole fight on UZADC as bait. So this would be all inhibitors exposed, and another kill attempt happening onto Burgay right now. The Asynol going through, not going to be enough to take him down though. And there is the flash of the Spirit Rush, or not the Spirit Rush, the flash, the Foxfire, and the Orb of Deception going straight onto Sean Nelson and Combrei, taking them down. Double kill for Gigabyte. That's going to be 2 inhibitors going down. Can they get a third? They still have all 5 members. Our Gigabyte is slightly low, and Springs 24 has the Shockwave up. If you can land it, that should be a kill onto Gigabyte. And no, it actually looks like Feels Batman is going to be flashing and slicing and dicing straight into the middle of the enemy team, going to try and get a kill onto Springs 24. Instead, they'll gain all 3 inhibitors and then backing off. They are going for the end here, actually. Could they do it? They have it where 4 of the members of St. Cloud are up. However, every single tower is down, and even if they are forced off, that's going to be 6 super minions throughout every single push that they'll have to deal with afterwards. They're trying to force Gigabyte out first. They're actually successful. Gigabyte has to back away. Same with Feels Batman. But we can see that I Love Varus was able to take down Pombre, and the rest of the team is still onto the Nexus. And this should be game right here. Just because Burgay is going to be going down, and that is going to be game. Alright, so that means that at the end of the week, that is going to be MNSU Mankato ending 7-0, finishing the day 2-0 for themselves, keeping their undefeated record. Congratulations to Mankato and St. Cloud. I do not know what to say. You played decently in the early game. You were doing kind of fine in the lane phase, but you really fell through in terms of properly rotating your allies and having vision control across the map. That was your biggest issue, in all honesty, was the vision control. You allowed too easily for people to see where Burgay was. You allowed under 50% to control your jungle way too easily. And that allowed him to assist Feels Batman in the top side and just create dominance effect or domino effects to where Feels Batman got ahead. Then they translated that lead over to Gigabyte. They used the roaming potential of Ahri in order to take over the bot lane. And they ended up taking down the bot lane turret first of all things, and then just capitalizing with dragons right after, having it where they secured wards all around your jungle, essentially starving you of your resources. That was the main way that Mankato played. That is the main way Mankato has been playing. They don't always initiate an objective, but they know how to react and then take an objective after the fact. And that is what I love about Mankato. They've been showing excellent promise within the league so far. I cannot wait to see how they do in the playoffs, because at this point, there is no way Mankato is not going to be in the playoffs. With them being 7-0 and only 4 weeks left, the worst record they could get would be, well, 7-4, which even with that record, they would be guaranteed in the playoffs since they would be at least in the top 8. And with that, GG to Mankato, you have secured your spot in the playoffs. St. Cloud, as of right now, you are now 1-5. You are going to have to step it up and try to get up or pick up some of the slack. I'm not sure how easily you could try and come back into the playoffs unless the other team's just ahead of you, which is going to be CSS and McAllister starts to fall behind. You're going to have to try and play against those teams as best as possible. However, that is going to finish us off for tonight. We had it where Mankato goes 2-0, and we also had Winona win their game today. GG's all around. Everyone played wonderful today. I love seeing these games. I'm kind of glad that since I was doing a solo cast, things calmed down towards the end, because my God, my throat started to hurt towards the end of game 2, which, again, I am terribly sorry about that, folks. We will try to get things fixed for next time. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I love you all, and I'll see you guys next week. Oh, wait. I forgot. Hey, guys, don't forget. The MNLCS. It's brought to you by Invade, bringing you some of the best apparel options in the Minnesota area. And go ahead and check them out. They have their own Facebook page. And again, I should mention, your caster tonight was Fen. Now, good night.